the deadline, which is Wednesday, June 16th. There is an extra week this month, so everybody gets an extra day to submit. So just a heads up. I am still staffing 2 commissions, so the Italian Village Commission here and as well as Victorian Village Commission, which holds its hearing tomorrow. It's probably going to take me anywhere from 3 to 7 business days to get all of the feedback out. So please keep in mind, I am trying to get through things as quickly and as accurately as I can. It's just going to take a little bit longer than normal. Hi, Jason.
Hello, all. Sorry for being a little late there. Scrambling on today.
That's okay. So I did not receive any notices of folks that would not be here. We are still the same commissioners, McNair and Fergus. Since we do have a quorum and our chair, do we want to start? We do have quite a few items to get through tonight.
I think that's probably a good idea if everybody else is up. Hearing no objections, I think we ought to dive in. So let me know when you're ready to roll and I will start us off.
We're ready to roll. Already recording live.
We're recording, we're ready? Okay, sounds good. All right, I will call the Italian Village Commission to order for June 8th, 2021. Held via WebEx, 4 p.m. The next business meeting is on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021 at noon. Also a virtual meeting to be held via WebEx. And our next regular hearing will be Tuesday, July 13th, 2021, also virtual, held via WebEx. Kimberly, will there be anybody else beside you testifying on behalf?
No, it's just me today.
Okay, sounds good. State your name for the record.
Kimberly Bernard Sheehy, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
Great. You promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon and evening.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go through the commissioners. I'll read everybody off. If you could just state your name for the record. Todd?
Todd Boyer.
Brooke?
Brooke Michael Smith.
Ben?
Ben Goodman.
And David?
David Cook.
And I am Jason Sudi. We have 5 of us. We have a quorum. So we are ready to roll. Any public forum today, staff?
No, not today.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess we've got a number of them that are also moved to staff approval. So can I have a motion? Let me see, what page does this start on? A lot of pages today in the agenda. Looks like page 10. 8. Oh, there it is. Starting on page 8. Can I have a motion for staff approved applications?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Okay, David and Todd, all in, or I'll read the roll, and then we'll go for abstentions. David?
In favor.
Todd?
In favor.
Brooke?
In favor.
Ben?
Aye.
And Jason, yes, in favor as well. So let me go through for abstentions. 251 Detroit Avenue. 1163 Say. 680 North High. 144 Cedar. 47 East Prescott. 1180 North Pearl. 22 East Prescott. 2288 Cornelius. 63 East Russell. 304 East Firth. 22 or 11 to 1124 North High. 681 Kerr. And 39 East Hubbard. Wow, we have absolutely no abstentions on any of those. Anybody say now if you have any abstentions? Okay, well, look at that. We made it for that whole thing. Okay, so now we are skipping ahead, right, staff? We've got what? The first few are gone, so up to number 4.
We still need to do the approval of the May 11th, 2021 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped right over it.
Yes.
Can I have a motion for the approval of the May meeting minutes for IVC?
Again, so moved.
And do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. David,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Ben,
Aye.
Todd,
Yes.
and Jason's a yes. Motion carries. Thank you, staff. So I think now we're ready. I haven't forgotten anything else to move to the agenda.
All right, we are starting off with number 4, which is IV-21-06-0112. This is for 67 to 71 East 5th Avenue for 1181 Say Avenue. The proposed work includes installation of new permeable pavers near the entrance of the parking lot, the plant area north of the southeastern building, and the installation of a wall-mounted handrail. The parking sign, asphalt paving, fence, and handrail were previously approved in COA IV-20-01-014, and that was also renewed in January of this year. Commissioners at the January 2020 hearing were in support of the proposed pavers. They just needed to submit the actual pavers they were using. Staff does recommend approval of the application with any clarifications and modifications made by the commissioners. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have an applicant here to? Sure, if we do.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can now.
Okay, awesome, great. I think I was on mute. So
I
I'm
can
here,
see it,
Christine
Christine.
Farley.
Great. Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you state your name one more time for the record?
Christine Farley.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon to the best of your ability.
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead and let us know what your thoughts are here.
So I sent the specs to you so you could take a final look at that, and that was on the permanent pavers. And then also when we attended the meeting, myself and Todd Dillon, we also said that, we would try to put some green scape in there. And I think you can see that little location where kind of like the little polka dots are. We thought we would do some, soft scape. And so I also provided some plants, and I would put some matching brick wall around there that would match the pavers. And I'm thinking maybe like 2 to 4 bricks high, and then fill that in with dirt, mulch it, and then, like I said, put some greenery in there just to kind of soften that up. And it would also blend it in with those paved areas where you see the 2 red X's. That's where the pavers were going to go in.
Right.
And I would use the matching material. I think it would kind of, tie it all in and make it more cohesive and just beautify it a little bit.
Sure.
So that's one of the things that I needed approved. And then also railings. The railings that were installed definitely weren't up to par. So I would like to install the railings to each of the basement locations. There's 3 different locations, and you'll see those where the steps are with the arrows.
Okay.
Each basement has each building has its own basement. So I would like to have that approved, the railings. And then there was, I think, a third item. I don't have it in front of me. Let's see here. I think I had finalized something in writing, I think, about the signage and the fencing.
I don't think that's necessary, staff. I think that's already taken
Okay.
care of, correct?
Yes, Alex is showing
Okay.
the previous COA. There is the other
Okay.
PDF here that is the documents for.
There we go.
Think
So that kind of
so.
gives you a better idea of the locations, how I want to kind of tie them in with each other.
Yep, I think it's, pavers, the planting areas, and the handrails. I think those are the 3 things for today. Great.
Okay.
Well, if you don't mind, we do have a real long agenda, so if we're going to try and race through the commissioner's comments here, and then I'll be back over to you to
Okay.
fill us in on any other thoughts. So with that, let me start. Brooke, do you have any comments?
No, I just have, well, yes, I just have one question. Will the fence be left as a natural material, or are you planning to paint it?
I wouldn't want to paint it. I would want to keep it natural, but I can add a stain to it if you would like, or at least a weather protectant. I just had it installed probably within the last, I would say maybe 5 months. So I think it kind of had to weather a little bit. I think you're supposed to do that before you apply anything like that. But I could spray it like a protectant so it stays a little bit fresher and doesn't get all, mossy and gray.
I'm good. I was just asking.
Any other thoughts, Brooke? Any other comments?
No, no others.
Okay.
I'd
Ben?
like to tag on to Brooke's
Sure.
comment and speed it up, Ed. I think it should be stained or colored something not so primitive as it is right at the moment.
Okay.
Other thoughts, David? Any other comments?
No, that was my only objection. There's a lot of fence there, so it really stands out, and I don't think it is enhancing. So this would be a good time to try to get it weathered or stained down a little bit. It's pretty primitive. I don't mean that as a negative. It's just very raw. So let's put a stain or a sealer on it, and I think that could be something staff could approve.
Sounds good. Ben?
I support staff and this application as it's been presented today.
Sounds good. Todd?
No additional comments.
Okay, I don't have any other comments either. David, would you like to make that motion, including that caveat in there?
Move to approve this application with the understanding the applicant was receptive to staining the fence material.
Okay. And you're okay with them working with staff, right?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have a second?
Second, Ben,
I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries. Okay. Thanks a lot, Christine. You're all set.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yep, you too. Thanks. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is number 6, I guess. 4244 East Prescott, is that correct?
Yes, this is correct.
Okay.
So this was previously moved to staff approval, but during the business meeting, I received some updated variances, so you guys get to see it again. So this is the variances for the lot width requirements, area district requirements, basis for computing, fronting, maximum side yards required, maximum side yards permitted, and rear yard. Staff does support the recommendation for the application with any modifications or clarifications made by the commission. And the basis for the recommendation is 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
Oops, I was on mute. Sorry, Kara, can you state your name for the record?
Carrick Sherrill.
And you promise to tell the truth, testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
I do.
Okay, so what do you have for us?
The one variance that was added was 3332.25 maximum side yards required. Area A has a 4.5 foot reduction, and area B has a 6 foot reduction. It's just kind of a technical thing that you need per the zoning code. Kind of goes along with the minimum side yards. If you want me to try to explain that further, I can.
I think that's good for now. Well, let's go through the commission and see if anybody has any further comments. And again, this is a request for variance recommendations, not approval. So let's see, Ben, you want to start?
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted there. Because I can't find my package for that application.
That's okay.
So
Well,
is this just for variances, or are we also talking about architecture?
This is just for variances, I believe, correct, staff?
Correct.
Yeah, this is just a recommendation for variances
Yeah.
to the BZA.
And I believe staff supports all these recommendations. Correct, staff?
Yes.
Yeah. I have no trouble with supporting this application.
Sounds good. Brooke?
I have nothing to add. Thank you. I agree with all the requests.
Todd?
Totally agree. I have no objections to the variance request.
And David?
Ditto.
Same here. Okay, can I have a motion for recommendation of approval to the
I
BZA?
will make that motion to recommend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variance changes.
2,
I'll
3,
second.
5, 6, 7. I think there are actually 7 of them, aren't there?
Yep.
6, 7.
I apologize. He did say that they added 1. Okay.
Sorry, Carrick, you get to pick which one you don't want. That's the way it works. So do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Ben?
Aye.
Brooke?
Yes.
And yes, I'm in favor. Motion carries. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll see it a little bit later.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so we are now up to number 8, I believe.
Yes. This is application IV-20-12-007B for 848 North Pearl Street. This is for the installation of a 12-foot by 10-foot overhead door and to move a 4-foot by 7-foot exterior door. The applicant is adding sidewalk along the street as well. I've included the minutes from the February 9th hearing for this application. Commissioners at the business meeting requested an elevation drawing of the sidewalk to the corner of the street, as well as a site plan showing how the proposed sidewalk meets up with the existing sidewalk. Commissioners wanted to know if there were curb cuts on the proposed sidewalks and wanted to see them on the elevation drawings if that was the case. There was some confusion regarding the proposed site plans. HPO staff would like to note that these includes the elevation lines along the street, which may be contributing to a little bit of the confusion. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the scaled measured drawings showing the sidewalk meet the corner are submitted to staff prior to issuance of the certificate, and curb cuts are added to the drawing as well. Staff will note that there were some revised additional drawings that were submitted. I'm going to let the applicant explain a little bit more because they did provide a very good description of things in their email. And the basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration. And Jason, I will let you swear in our applicant.
Sounds good. Who's speaking tonight for this application?
Chris Gresham, attorney for the owner.
Okay, great. Chris, you've already stated your name. Do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
I do.
Okay, great. So over to you.
Okay, Kimberly, would it be possible to bring up the 2 elevations? So this is the building on 848 North Pearl Street at the intersection with Prescott. You're seeing the rear of the building where there's the garage and the man door. And if you could zoom in a little bit, Kimberly, I think this might actually be the old drawing. Do you happen to have the new one submitted on the 4th? There we go. There we go. Okay. So what we asked the architect, the engineer to do is go ahead and add some additional indicators on what everything is, where it's at, what the grade looks like, and try to take care of the 2 objections, I believe, that we wanted to see the sidewalk all throughout to the corner. And as you see here, and we'll get down to the actual sidewalk elevation in a second, but you can see where we've now got it. It's all going to go to the corner to where the street intersects with Pearl Street and Prescott Street. So the sidewalk will go all the way across the edge of the building. There are no curb cuts. So this sidewalk is actually going to be a little, it'll be, the grade is going to go down. So you're going to see where we're going to lower the grade. The existing grade of the street is going to be higher than the sidewalk. What we're going to have there is a roll curb. This is a standard type of curb that we spoke with our architect engineer about. He says you see this a lot in residential neighborhoods where they might not necessarily want to put in actual curb cuts, but it does provide for a curb and a gentle slope down. you can see, Kimberly, if you could just scroll down a little bit to see the elevations. Excuse me, there's a depiction of the roll curb and what that will look like. So it'll be a gentle ramp up to the asphalt street. And Kimberly, if you could scroll back up real quick, I want to address, I think we had a question about the step, and you can see where on the far left hand, there's going to be a gentle, again, a proposed 6-inch step down to the sidewalk that's going to be installed. And currently there is no sidewalk at all. It's just dirt. So we're going to extend that all the way to the edge of the street. And then Kimberly, I think if we could go down to the sidewalk elevation. Okay, so this is the sidewalk elevation. If you can walk through this with me, you'll see on the top the top right of the drawing where it says match line. You'll see that these two match up together, and this shows what the sidewalk will look along the edge of the building. The top portion will be the corner of Prescott and Pearl Street. And you can see where it juts out at a little bit of an angle there. And I asked why that was and tried to understand what the purpose of that was. And there are some electricity lines that would interfere right at that corner. And what the engineer decided was it might be nicer to just have this go all along follow the path of the roadway is what we tried to accomplish here. And you can see where the roll curb will lower down into the sidewalk. You can see that it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk, which is consistent with a city code. And what we're going to do in that area that is currently dirt between the sidewalk and the street and the building, if you can see that there with me, that's going to be put some shrubs or some landscaping of some type, make it look nice, so that it's not just dirt there. We'll mulch it. It'll look nice. But a new sidewalk will be fully installed. And again, with section AA and section BB on the left-hand side of this drawing, you can see that this is the best way to see what the roll curb is going to look like and how the elevation change, because the asphalt road is a little bit higher, just about 6 inches higher than what the finished floor will be. And this will allow, the tenant is the pedal wagon, which is I believe it's new to Columbus for a couple of years. They moved in and they host rolling pedal wagons and bring in patrons to the area. And this will allow them to get their trucks or their pedal wagons in and out of the building in a manner that doesn't cause too much stress for them. So that's the gist of it, and I'm happy to take and answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks a lot. We'll let's go through all the commissioners, and then we'll get back to you to answer questions at once. Probably be a little easier that way. So, Todd, do you want to start?
Sure. I think my only question, I got 2 questions. I guess the first one would be the downspout. Does the downspout just daylight right onto the sidewalk and kind of the water stays within the rolled curb new sidewalk area?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. And then the second question, you mentioned a step between kind of on the far left of this drawing that's on the screen. Is it actually a step, or is that roll curb as well?
It's a little bit of both. It's just a 6-inch. It's not a full step. So rather than putting in a step that is at a different angle, what the engineer decided is to make it easier so you prevent tripping and things like that, is to do the roll curb. So it'll be more like the roll curb than an actual step, because I don't think 6 inches is the exact height of what a step needs to be. So the idea is to try to prevent anybody from tripping and falling there.
Okay. All right. Jason, I don't really have any additional comments. I think really my only comment would be, if it is a step, there needs to be some kind of contrasting stripe or some kind of designation that there's a change in the elevation of that sidewalk. If it's a roll curb, I'm not as concerned about it. But at this point, that's my only comment, Jason.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I hate to drag out this out, but I am not going to be able to vote for this. If you remember, this applicant went ahead and made changes without coming to us before. The scale of the garage door, the scale of the man door, the 4'4" width, and not having the same height. We would never do this on a facade of a building. And now to hear that this sidewalk is below the street, so it's going to collect water in the winter and freeze up, and it's just back long way. I wanted to say another word from the way this should be done. I just cannot support this application. I think this is a mistake. We've got $1 million homes that are coming right around the corner from here. We've got a lot of other development that's happened in this little alleyway, so it shouldn't be dismissed. And this is not an improvement or an enhancement, in my opinion. This is wrong.
Are we permitted to respond to that, or can we?
Let's get through everybody first.
Okay.
We got a huge agenda. Brooke?
I really don't have anything to add. I definitely understand where David's coming from, but I think we have seen this for quite some time. And I would go back to that same area that Todd brought up. And if this does pass, I would reiterate that that step, or if it's rolled curb, fine, does need to have some contrast. It looks like the slope goes up to the existing sidewalk beyond that we can't see. And if that's supposed to meet any kind of handicapped slope requirements, I'm going to guess that it doesn't, but I don't know that.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all.
Great. And then Ben?
Yeah, I'm a little vexed by this application also. First of all, I think it was a great response on, what we'd requested in the business meeting and last time. But there is still this little bit of a hiccup of this garage door going in early and without any sort of oversight. And I probably could have gotten my head around that with the, if it were a nicer door and looked more professional, with say glass panels or something like that, like we see in the other industrial building further east on Prescott. But the thing that's got me a little bit nervous is that the applicant solicited a letter from the adjacent homeowner, and part of the statement was their business is not operating on East Prescott Street, and yet tonight I hear that the pedal wagon will be going in and out of that door. So it's a bit of a game changer for me. And I think I've swayed to a non-support because of that, despite some good work on the elevations of the roll curb and the plantings and all that. So I'd like to hear back from the applicant's representative about that before I make my final decision.
Okay, just real quickly, I've got a couple comments, then we'll get back to you, Christopher, to fill us in. My concern is I'm having a little trouble understanding how this corner sidewalk resolves around to what's on the adjacent alley. And I think it's, if you want, Alex, if you can go down to that site plan. Yeah, that one right there. So that top one, I'm just not quite understanding that perhaps with that gray shaded area. It just seems like you've got the curb that's kind of cooking along, and then the sidewalk sort of lurching away from it back toward what I'm not sure is on the other corner. I'm trying to look at it on Google Maps. I can't quite make it out. So my concern is that I just want it to feel like kind of like a normal way a city street / alley sidewalk would work, where you come from one side where it has a sidewalk and turns onto the other public right of way with a fairly regular sidewalk. And I'm not sure what's going on with that curb and that triangle in there. So if you could just explain that, that would be great. So back over to you, and we'll hear what you think about those things.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your consideration here, and we apologize that the might not necessarily have followed all of the protocols at the beginning here, but we are trying to make a very good faith effort to work with the commission and try to add some value, because currently there is no sidewalk here. It does not look very nice. The sidewalk on the neighboring property is not going to be the same width. It's smaller. It does not look like it would meet code if it were to be installed today. So this will be a benefit to the area. the corner here was done because of the elevation change. And we are happy to redraw this if you need us to and work with you. But we just want to get this passed so that we can move on. But we're happy to do any cosmetic changes, maybe change the door, make that look nicer if that would be helpful to the commission. But we really want and need to get this moving forward if we can to allow the pedal wagon to operate successfully from here. And my understanding is that they will not be using this door for every single entry and exit, but there is a push cart that it'll be easier to get out of this door than it would any other. So that it's not going to be the main operating, and I can check on that, but from my understanding, it's not going to be the main doorway that is used. So there should not be, the traffic, it should not materially impact the traffic on Prescott. And like I said, the sidewalk there was done. You can see on this elevation that's before us, the existing gas meters, trying to just keep the sidewalk away from those. And we are going to beautify that, so it will be a landscaped area. So it might jut out a little bit, but I think overall the effect it will be a nice area once it's completed.
I guess what I'm not understanding is how does it attach? I'm kind of checking down Google Maps right now. Does it attach to that sidewalk as it comes around the corner? Like that curve that's there now, there is a curve that comes around. So that's what I'm trying to understand with that 4 foot. So does that leave just that little patch then around those telephone poles and still be dirt?
I'm pulling that up now. Let me take a quick peek.
I guess the quick answer for me would be, it just seems like it'd make a lot more sense if that was just also concrete around those poles, because I just don't feel like that's ever going to be maintained as a very successful piece of landscaping. And that's just pretty typical, to have poles in the middle of a sidewalk like that. So
I see what you're saying. So you'd want just the concrete to go and cover I see the poles that you're concerned with. Yeah. And we can certainly put concrete there if that's a concern.
Yeah, right on the other end. It's just like in your drawing, it gets around there, and it seems kind of weird because you got a sidewalk that comes all the way around. So I feel like it should just continue at the full width, and then I understand tapering down away from the building. I hear what you're saying, and I would think that I would personally like to have the criteria that you'd have to resubmit a landscape plan to staff for their approval to make sure that we have plantings that are compatible with what we like to see in the neighborhood.
We can certainly put concrete there and extend the sidewalk to address that. As far as the landscape, would it be possible to get this piece approved before submitting that, or does it all go as one?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm proposing. So if your vote's in the affirmative, I would suggest that you would come back to staff with a landscape plan.
Oh, we'd be happy to do that. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, commissioners, any other thoughts or comments before we try?
Well, my concern is that is the level of business activity outside this door. So I don't think the question was answered satisfactorily. If they're just pushing a cart in and out, that's probably fine. If any congregation is happening out there, then it's not fine. If we get a good answer from that, and they're willing to put a better garage door in, I will yield to Mr. Chair, your idea of putting the landscape to staff for future approval. I would have preferred to see it come back to us before we made the total approval, but I'll go with the flow on that.
Others out there?
I think we still have an issue of the downspout on the far east end, and how is that not going to end up flooding the sidewalk? Is it going to go deeper?
Can you address that one, Chris?
Yeah, so the grade actually changes, and I'm trying to find this for you, but
because right now
it's going to flow out towards the street, is my understanding. It's not. It should not pool. We did not design it so that it would pool and create ice puddles. That is not the intention at all. We want to make this as walkable and as user-friendly as we can. And my understanding is that it will flow towards the I guess it'll be Pearl Street along the sidewalk.
Jason, can you think of anywhere in the village that you know of where the sidewalk is below the street?
Not offhand. I'm not saying it never happens. I'm just trying to think about it. It is a weird circumstance. I get that. I'm trying to think about it.
Does anybody know of any example of where the sidewalk is below the street? I just don't see how we can go forward with that idea.
I do not have a specific example, but in speaking with our engineer, while it's not the most common method of attacking this, it is something that he has seen before, it's been done before, and it's a way to, the roll curb is a standard way to address this in order to make sure that the elevation change is appropriate.
I think I could get behind the water going down that sidewalk if it sloped towards the planting area as opposed to away from it, or provided some sort of sense of a channel for that water to flow down to and be dropped into the end of the sidewalk to the curb, or where there's I'm hoping maybe a manhole. Otherwise, I think it should go into the building drain, if that's legal, I guess, or I don't know. Tricky. And all this is driven by the fact that that door has been put there as opposed to somewhere else where it would have been less of an issue for all these things.
Yeah, because then, I mean, the typical way is you just have that same curve go along this side. It does die into it right now, but you could, raise that and then just have it follow the elevation of the building, which would then, match up where you have that 6-inch drop now would be necessary. You probably just ride it right into that. Should be, pretty typical solution. So you are right. Now, and I know we talked about this before, I guess maybe the door couldn't be raised because that certainly would seem to solve a lot of problems too. If they just raise the door.
They just ramp in the inside.
Exactly.
Right.
If it's only a push cart, that would stop the fact of trying to bring the wagons in there and have everybody congregating in the alley, which is not a good safe situation. I'd like to make a motion to continue this application.
I would second that.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, applicant. We typically ask if you are okay with a motion to continue, or if you want us to move to a vote. Sounds like there's some concerns out here. So, it's kind of up to you to decide what you think would happen based on our vote. But, we'll leave that to you if you would prefer us to try and take a vote tonight or continue it to the next meeting to resolve some of these outstanding issues.
I know my client would really like to get this resolved. It's been a few months now, and we're trying our best to try to get a good solution for everybody here. I know it might not seem like that, but we really are. We want to be good neighbors. If we go to a vote and it's not successful, would we be back at square one? Can you advise what that process looks like?
Staff, can you speak to that?
So if there were by chance a denial, in theory, there's a couple of ways it could move forward. You could submit a revised application that took some of the commissioner's comments into consideration, so it would be considered a new application. And you could also appeal the denial. When the denial documents go out, there's a number of reasons for appeal that you can pick. One of them I know is financials, others strange and unusual circumstances, although I think it's worded slightly different than that. And you would have 10 days from when I send it out to appeal to get revised information back in and get it back in front of the commission.
Okay.
Just while you're contemplating that, I will say, one of the things that it seems, and I don't remember what the answer was, but it does seem like it would resolve some of these issues. I know it'd be have some cost involved, but if both the door and the overhead door, were just higher and or could be accessed differently internally, and you could just put a sidewalk where it would normally go, I mean, that would be all of our concerns resolved, I think. So
my understanding is, sorry, my understanding is there is a ramp on the inside, or the elevation change on the inside of the building would make it virtually unusable if we were to do that.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to avoid that at all costs, because not only is it expensive, but the benefit of the building would be severely reduced.
Gotcha.
So we're hoping to get a solution without going to that extreme route.
I hear you.
It might be your solution is to move the door somewhere else on the building where the grade is closer match, but I don't want to think and conjecture too much here when we need to get moving.
Okay, so would you like us to continue, or would you prefer to have a vote tonight? We can try and structure something with conditions if you'd like us to do that.
If you could vote for and structure something with conditions, that would be great.
Okay, and again, if you know, no prediction on which way that's going to go, and then you know your options there from staff if it should not pass. So, is someone willing? Could you make a motion that involved that, you know, the concern you had, and maybe whatever else we got hanging out there?
Sure. I will move to, sorry, I want to get the application number right here. Move to approve application 848 North Pearl Street with the following conditions of there being some kind of contrasting stripe at the roll curb on the, I believe, the northeast corner of the building. And the condition of the water that comes from the downspout on the east corner being some way handled in either landscaping or some type of connectivity to the city storm system. And that's it. Does that capture them?
Would you also mind adding that the sidewalk will extend out around those 2 telephone poles in that existing curb corner too?
Yes, absolutely. In addition to what's shown on the drawings, the concrete, the sidewalk will go around to the existing curb and encapsulate those 2 telephone poles or power poles.
Okay. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second that and want to clarify that the motion is not going to include any sort of movement of the door or make it the threshold flush with the grade in its current position.
That is where we currently stand, and I believe applicant, you are asking us to vote on a motion that does not include moving the door, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this is in the affirmative to approve, and I will call the roll. Todd?
Yes.
Yeah. Ben?
No.
Brooke?
Yes.
David?
No.
All right, I'm going to be the tiebreaker, and I'm going to say yes, and that involves you working with staff to resolve those remaining issues. I honestly don't think it's going to be a great solution. I do think it is going to be better than it is now, and I think that we will probably be revisiting this at some point in the future when there's a new user to this building, I am suspecting. So you got your approval. You can work with staff in order to figure it out, and we're going to now know if this process works. I hate to use a guinea pig, but I think it's serviceable and hopefully will be the best that it can be and not turn out to be the worst that we fear. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
okay, moving on to all good comments, by the way. So I hope nobody feels like, you know, I wasn't sympathetic to those, because I think David and Ben, you had both excellent points. Okay, number 915 North 4th.
Yes, this is application IV-21-05-006B. The proposed work includes demolition of an existing non-historic garage, new construction of a new 1.5-story carriage house to be built in the footprint of the existing garage, and a variance update for the basis of the computing area to increase the lot coverage from 50% to 72%. I included the commissioner comments from the May 11, 2021 approval of the application with the condition that the carriage house is lower than the existing house and similar to the existing structures on the unnamed alley. Staff also supports recommendation of that variance update, and basis for recommendation is the standards for new construction.
Excellent. Okay, who do we have to represent this applicant tonight?
My name is Kareem Ammer.
Kareem Ammer is the applicant himself. Okay, great. You've already stated your name, Kareem, for the record. Can you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
I do.
Okay, great. Over to you to tell us what you know.
Great. Well, pleasure to see you all again. Since the May meeting and per the commissioner's feedback, we've made the following changes. Commissioners weren't fans of the angle of the gabled roof, so we've eliminated that altogether to have the roof line continue all the way through. We've adjusted the windows based on your comments by referencing the stock in the area. We've provided lighting on the patio and on the side of the door entrance. We've also adjusted the design of the railing and the design of the entrance door as well to be more suited for the area. So tried to incorporate as all the design suggestions as possible, and believe we've come up with a good product for you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thanks. So with that, let me go through the commissioners and we'll see where we are. Ben, you want to start?
Yeah, I continue to want to push the applicant to either turn the deck, the second story deck, towards the yard, or to continue the roof line out to the same plane as the garage doors. And we've seen that successfully implemented on a similar project nearby and in a later application here tonight. I think it's 16. So I support, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on with this, but I probably won't support the project without honoring that plane, that alley vertical plane and eave and roof line.
Okay, Todd?
Yeah, I think the change in the roof pitches, so it's just a simpler form, is a great change. I think looking through the application, not really much else stands out. Maybe the gooseneck lights over top of the west elevation, the garage doors. Perhaps those could be over the garage doors instead of in between. It's kind of has a weird proportion in where it's located. But other than that, I don't really have many objections.
Okay, Brooke?
I don't really have anything to add. I'm fine with it. I do agree with Ben to a certain extent on the idea of flipping the deck to the yard side. However, I get that would be really redesigning this whole thing. I guess my point is that it's I don't think it's going to be a very comfortable place to sit, but I think it would be improved if that roof line were extended over the deck. And other than that, I mean, that's just a comment, suggestion. Other than that, I'm okay with it.
Okay, David?
You know how I'm going to vote, so let's move on.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with the changes, so I don't have any concerns that are significant at this point. Yeah, I know this had other versions of this uncovered or by the alleys too. I don't know. I kind of see the merits in both of them, so I don't have a strong feeling on that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, there was one other thing that
Sure.
I don't know if everybody caught, but we have some 4/1 windows and a multi-divided door facing the alley, and it seems like those windows are a strange proportion and too many divisions. So seems to me that the motion should include a more typical kind of appropriate 1/1 or something, and maybe a full light door.
Okay, would that be something you think they could work with staff to accomplish?
Sure.
Okay, can I have a motion on this one with any of those stipulations?
Well, I'll make that motion to approve the project as presented here tonight with the stipulation that the applicant work with staff to select windows and doors that are more appropriate to the guidelines and community. Period.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll call the roll. Ben,
No.
Brooke,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
David,
No.
and Jason, yes. So the motion carries, and you'll work with staff to iron out the rest of the details.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we are moving on to number 10, I believe.
Yes. This is application number IV-21-06-015, 160 to 168 Warren Street. This application is to repair the existing rear porches that will replace the materials like for like with treated framing lumber, replace the existing rear paver patio with concrete, replace the concrete public sidewalk in like time, repoint the masonry where needed, and the front stone stoop is to be re-leveled. The commissioners at the business meeting would like to see the previous pavers retained in the yard instead of switching to concrete. Staff does recommend approval for the application with the condition that the pavers are kept in the rear yard, the site plan is revised, and the cut product sheet is to be submitted to HBO staff prior to issuance of their certificate. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration.
Okay, we have an applicant here today.
Yes, this is Craig Murdoch.
Hi, Craig. You've already stated your name for the record. Do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
I do.
And do you have somebody there with you who will be also testifying?
Yes, Lynn Murdoch?
And do you promise as well to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, over to both of you to tell us what you know.
Well, I was at the business meeting, so as far as I understand, there's really no question for the bulk of the project. The question remaining is about the rear patio. As it is right now, it is a portion of it that we're talking about replacing is a concrete-based brick paver. It's our preference. Me, the applicant, my wife representing the ownership, so I get a little bit of a say in it. It's the preference to reduce maintenance issues and create some consistency. So just from that kind of perspective, our choice is to go with concrete. If the issue is permeability, I certainly understand with stormwater issues. You know, at the end of the day, we're not, it would save us money if we didn't have to do it, but we would still prefer to do concrete, but we'll leave it up to your judgment. I did want to ask Kim, I think, or I'm not sure who mentioned cut sheets, and I'm not sure, we're not introducing any new product. So I'm not sure what you were referring to about cut sheets.
I can answer, Jason, if you'd like. So with the paver patios, if that does end up being the proposed solution, I'm asking for those cut or the product sheets of what paver we will be using to be submitted to me. That way there's no question of if we put in the right paver or not down the line in case something happens that comes into question or a later tenant wants to repair or replace in like kind.
I guess I still don't understand. The pavers are existing. So if the commission prefers that we not remove them and replace with concrete, there is no new product.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying then.
Okay.
I guess if just real quickly, I thought I knew what was going on until that last comment. So what you're saying is if we don't approve you having concrete replacement patios, then you're basically just leaving everything exactly as it is right now?
So, yes, if you do not approve the replacement of the pavers with poured concrete,
Okay.
then we will just leave the existing pavers in place.
Okay, but then there are other things on here that you would still be seeking approval for, correct?
Yes. And again, according to our business meeting, none of that seemed to be creating any objections.
Gotcha. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, well, let me go through the commissioners and we'll turn it back to you for comment. Sorry, let's start off with David.
Because this house is so significant and very, very important to the character of our neighborhood, I would say that the concrete on the patio is not to be done, but everything else to go forward.
Okay, any other
See what
comments?
benefits us putting more concrete on the site is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, Todd?
Nothing to add. I agree with David.
Okay, Ben?
Agree with David and staff.
Brooke?
Agree with David.
Okay, it sounds like we have a pretty consistent message there. Other things for Craig and Lynn that you'd want to ask us or talk to us about before we made a motion and take a vote?
Nope.
Okay, well, with that, will somebody make a motion?
I will make a motion. Now, I want to be careful the way we're saying it, that the existing patio pavers will remain, but the other additions to improve the public sidewalks are acceptable as presented.
Sounds good to me. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, does that motion work for you, staff?
I also wanted to clarify that this will include repairing the existing rear porches and repointing the masonry as well, and this front stone stoop.
Yeah, and that's included in your motion, correct, David?
Accept the change.
Yes, except for the paver, the pavers to be concrete, pavers will remain.
Okay, now I'm confused now.
I think we're saying everything's fine, except that we are not approving the pavers.
Okay.
To change to concrete and the patios.
And we're in agreement with that. Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. In that case, I think we've got a motion and a second. So I will call the roll. David?
Yes.
And Ben?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And yes for me, motion carries. Okay, thanks, folks. We appreciate it.
Jason, 1 second while we have the applicants here, would we allow them just a quick minute to say, is the water issue at the corner, your front corner, that's always a swamp? Has the city addressed that properly? Is it resolved now? I noticed quite a bit of work recently at that corner.
I know they were working on it. The last I had seen that a lot of the street pavers had been removed and they were correcting it. I don't know if we've been down within the last few weeks to see how the improvements have come along, but that's obviously a concern of ours. We will certainly go in for the proper permits for the sidewalk, the public sidewalk, and we will be working with their engineering department and their arborist regarding the trees to make sure that it is done properly.
And know that this commission will support what you're trying to do, because that has been a definite unpleasant situation for the neighborhood and everybody else. And so we would like to see your property maintain its value and the care you've given it and help that corner get corrected. So know this commission will support you on it.
Absolutely. And it's always been a concern. Her father passed away a year and a half ago. So we're kind of getting in and tackle some outstanding issues. And that's before they started tearing up the street. That was a concern, and we were wondering how that was going to be handled. I'd like to have had a conversation with the engineering department before they addressed it. We would like to stop the trucks cutting off the corner, that sort of thing, into the alley. So that's certainly a concern of ours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, it looks it visually looks like it's much improved. I'll be interested to see how the water does, though. I'll have to.
Yeah, me too. All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, on to the application, which is number 11.
This is application number IV-21-06-016 for 958 North High Street. The proposed work here is to extend the existing patio from 5 foot wide to 6 foot, erect an awning to cover the entire patio. The proposed construction needs to have carbon steel square tubing supporting the awning from the ground with an inch and a half OD to support the awning cover, and the awning itself will be either black acrylic or vinyl fabric. Commissioners at the business meeting were not supportive of extending the patio an extra foot all the way around the storefront or all the way across the storefront. They suggested an expansion may be possible to the south area where there was more space, but that garbage can would need to be relocated. Commissioners also noted that the applicant should be prepared to talk about the awnings. The proposed awnings would be replacing the existing unapproved awnings, and a similar awning for what's being proposed across the entire front was approved at 1122 to 1124 North High Street. The COA for that is included. And signage is going to be addressed in separate application. I did confirm that with the applicant when we were discussing putting the application on the agenda. Staff recommends continuing the application to allow the applicant to revise the proposed patio. Staff also recommends approval of the awnings with the condition that a cut or product sheet for the fabric is submitted prior to issuance of the certificate. The basis for recommendation are the Short North guidelines for awnings and canopies, the Short North design guidelines for the commercial patios and outdoor dining, and the standards for alteration City Code 3116.11.
Okay, great. Do we have an applicant here today?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Could you state your name for the record?
Shyam Dudila.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
I do.
Okay, over to you, Shyam.
Yeah. Hi. I was there in the last the business meeting, and then it was said the designs or the logo on the awning were not permitted. I agree with it. Just we started in the pandemic, the whole thing, sitting at home, advising people to do on the phone. And then we just did what we could do because we just started in March. So I was suggesting them on the phone. They understood something. I got something. We wanted to be there. You know, there were a lot of permissions going on from city for electrical equipment, everything and all inside the place. So that led, and then I also sent an email to Kimberly that we'll correct all this in the coming up patio renovation. When we are going to change the new awning, we're going to take off the logo and then get another application for all those logos and everything on the awnings. So that's there. And then the reason why we are asking for 6 feet, another feet extension will be okay even with 6 inches also, because there is a, like, I would like to show some photos if it can be seen. Like what happens is there is a lot of rainwater. When it comes to the, I'm not able to show here, but then my camera, if you can see, like there is a rainwater which comes to the building and then it goes to the basement. So the basement is already half. So we have spoke to the city engineer and they said they can't do much because it's already three years passed out and the contractor is out of the warranty. So I think it was Mr. Richie Dimling. He was there to inspect everything. So the whatever, now what we did is we covered us 4 inches. We did a leveler little, but then what he suggested is still the water is going into the basement. So he said raise at least 4 inches or 6 inches on the corner to the, so that the water doesn't get into the basement. So we go to the cracks. So we need to move the patio a little away so that 1 more feet. Still we'll have a walkway of the current from the plant base to our we have 7 feet 1 inch. So that's still going to be 6 feet 1 inch, even if we move 1 feet away from the existing one. If we extend 1 more feet, still there will be a 6 feet walkway available from the plant base.
Okay. So we'll go through this here in a second. We'll talk about the issue of moving that out. But I'm curious. So you do have the awning as part of this application tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure. The one thing about the raising of this, and I'd just like to say before we get into this discussion, and unfortunately, this is not great for you, but I think for our role and how the street works, I think we're going to need to have some more investigation through this, spearheaded by staff with other departments. In that is a new streetscape that was just built all the way down the street, and it should not be pooling back into your business, certainly. At the same time, I think it's a real challenge for me, and we'll see what the other commissioners say, to think about changing the physical sidewalk level down there, because then it feels like that would be the start of a whole lot of potential changes of the sidewalk level, which could then lead to kind of a degradation of this brand new streetscape that we just put in there. And also having a bunch of irregular heights on the sidewalk. If in the future people start taking these railings down and the liquor licenses start to change, or people no longer actually need the railings, then all of a sudden we're going to have a whole bunch of 2 to 4 to 6 inch plates sort of left over in front of a bunch of buildings, and that is really tough for me. I just can't conceptualize that happening. Just got the street straightened out. So
small this thing. I'm not talking about the whole sidewalk. It's just closer to that so that the water doesn't get into the basement. Like just to the corner 4 inches, just the 4 inches to raise 1 inch.
Just 4 inches from your building?
Yeah, 4 inches from the building so that water doesn't go to the basement. So that there is a sidewalk crack where the whole so the water is going through the cracks to the basement.
Okay.
And then the basement is it's flooding inside.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that is better. I think from our perspective, and again, I'll let the other commissioners speak to it. I feel like that almost needs to be something that staff works with Department of Public Service to make sure that that's something that it's approvable in the public right away from their perspective. It just feels a little bit out of our purview, to be honest with you. But let me go through the rest of the commissioners, see what everybody says, and then we'll kind of double back to that at the end. Unless staff, do you have anything you want to add?
I would probably have to talk to Jamie about it, anything, because this hasn't been brought up before, so it's new for me.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. In the meantime, let's talk about everything else, or that too. Anything the commissioners want to talk about. David, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I'll be real quick. But Jason, given the length of the agenda tonight, I want to follow staff's recommendation that we continue this application. And for all the reasons you've already articulated, we don't want bumps in the sidewalk. We also don't want to narrow the walkability of the sidewalk, which has happened here. And so I definitely think this should just be continued, and there's just too many issues to keep rehashing. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Brooke?
I agree with David on this one. Yes.
Okay. Todd?
Yeah, I would agree as well, just to give the applicant a chance to revise the awnings design so it covers over the outdoor patio and just addresses some of the comments that were made during the business meeting.
Okay. And then Ben?
Yeah, I think this gets complicated because of ADA issues and how you might, if you're putting a curb all the way across the front, which might be seemingly okay, I'm sure that starts to creep into how the whole threshold towards the doors work, and accessibility and so forth. So I really feel badly for this particular building, if it's the only one, but certainly it raises questions about if all of them are having this trouble. In my mind, though, all this puts leverage on the city to begin to implement a good silver lining to this whole thing, and that is that possibly we move seating out towards the curb. So we haven't quite talked about that, but I want the applicant to be aware that I'm not very fond of and probably won't support the idea of expanding the seating area, the foot that they're requesting, but that and I think maybe others on this commission would be very supportive of beginning to occupy the space closer to the curb on the other side of the walkway. And beyond that, I'm going to say that I support a continuation so that we can address all these things with the proper advice.
Okay, so back over to you as the applicant. You know, we always ask if you are okay with us continuing it. We can go forward with a motion tonight. It seems like it's going to be tough for people to vote yes, just because they're unsure of a lot of factors. So would you be okay with us continuing this, and then you could continue to work with staff?
I think we are losing a business time with all the hardship. I don't know, because we wanted it much long, like 3 months before, to be the patio ready for this summer. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take for another. I think there is some confusion. I'm okay with even extension. If not an extension, I can just cover the patio with 5 feet, like within the existing patio itself. It's just not.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of us didn't address that. I will say that I'm not in support of that. We really feel like we just keep getting more and more encroachments into this walking space, and I think we're regretting a lot of the existing patios that were there before the streetscape was even done. And it's really not, even though the sidewalk expanded, I'm personally not in favor of expanding it either. It's certainly usable as it is. So, you know, I think it's not like it doesn't work at 5 feet. It just maybe works a little better for your program at 6 feet, but you can certainly use it. So I'm not quite sure why that's hindering you from actually doing business, but that's up to you.
No, they're doing that like the line that's 5 feet. It's only that, like, it doesn't allow the customers to walk. So that 6 inches we thought we can move, because when I spoke to the city, they said maybe like, you know, they're okay, but then it needs to come through the IVC for that, because
Right.
they needed 5 feet at least, but then you have still 6-7 feet there. So even if you go 6.5 inch, like 6 inches, by covering this, you may get like little more. It's just an idea what Ricky.
We can certainly vote on that. I am not in favor of it. David said he's not in favor of it. I can go through. Ben, do you want to speak to your thoughts on?
I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting. I cannot talk here. I'll call you later. Okay.
Hey, Ben, do you have thoughts on whether
I am not in support of moving the fence line. I think I am in support. I just want to reiterate with allowing the applicant and other business owners to occupy the sidewalk on the closer to the curb.
Gotcha. And Todd?
Yeah, I'm not in support of moving out the patio. I mean, I'm in support of him covering what he has today, but not moving the actual line.
And Brooke,
So
give me just 1 second, Brooke.
Yes, I agree with Todd. I think it's fine to cover the patio that he has right now, but not extend the patio.
Okay, sounds good. But now this application doesn't actually have the covered patio drawings, correct?
it has.
Yeah,
I am not seeing those.
there's 2 packages.
It's in the
Very good.
elevation, not this.
So Jason, from what I saw, it looks like the supports, like the cut sheets for like the steel supports are in there, but I don't know if there's actual drawing of what the new one would look like. Like
It's there in the bottom on the top.
Guys, we are taking a lot of valuable time.
No, I hear you, David. Don't. Yes, I got you.
Okay.
I just want to try and get this
We're
figured
saying
out.
over and over and over again.
Alex,
Let's
that's the
continue.
drawing.
So this is my first meeting.
Yeah, no, I got you. So, just so the applicant's aware, so, you know, it sounds like you don't have support for us to vote on the extension of the patio. So, we can take a vote if you would like us to. It seemed that when we went through the commissioners, everyone, including myself, feels like we don't have enough information to move on this today. So, it's up to you. If you would like us to take a vote, we can, or we can continue it. And we can try to work out those remaining issues, including, I think, getting some more detail on what that awning specifically would be like, because I'm having a little trouble understanding it from the drawings.
It's on page 4 of the PDF of your package.
Okay,
but
I hear you. I'm looking at that page, and at least the one I have, it doesn't.
It's not very clear.
Nothing that's helpful to me. So, yeah, I don't understand what that is. So.
Yeah, we need a scale drawing, a much bigger scale. It's like, inch to the foot.
Yeah, that's I'm not clear on what's going on there, or how that interfaces with the windows that are on the building or any of those kind of things. So,
Yeah,
it's
good point.
okay. So applicant, would you like us on this application or continue it until next time?
I'm not sure what we're gonna vote or what we're not gonna vote, but I just like, I'm okay with the 5 feet one. If that needs to be covered, I can come with ask for a designer to design it better, because it was a rough, which we didn't
Right.
want to go whether if it's not getting approved to spend money on that.
Well, this is what we're saying. We need more information to be able to vote positively on any of the pieces in your application, except for the extending of the fence, which we've all said we're going to vote no on.
Yeah.
So basically, you can have us vote. It doesn't sound like you're going to get any approvals, or you can have us continue it and continue to work with staff and then come back with some more information.
Okay, I'll work with the staff.
Okay, sounds good. So can I have a motion to?
This.
I move to continue.
Okay, and excellent. So I will call the roll. Ben?
Yes.
And David?
Yes.
And Brooke?
Yes.
And Todd?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so you have a continuation. That means that you've got another month to work with staff and to try and resolve those issues. It sounds like people are favorable toward the patio covering of the awning, if we have more details, not favorable toward the extension of the patio. And then we'll have to figure out about this 4-inch curb situation.
And clarification, if there are any graphics on any part of the umbrella or awnings, we need to know what that is.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We got a long agenda, so we're going to have to kind of keep trucking on tonight. But thanks for coming.
Staff just want to clarify for the continuation, you will have until June 16th to submit revised drawings to get on the July agenda.
Okay, great. Okay.
Staff, can you just request a section drawing as part of your process?
Yeah, like the actual the awning company drawing that they would.
Yes.
That would be awesome. Okay, excellent. Moving on to number 12.
Yes, so this is IV-21-06-017, 1122 to 1124 North High Street. This proposed work includes moving the existing AC condensing unit at the rear of the building south and installing a new AC condensing unit north of the relocated unit. Commissioners at the business meeting had difficulty understanding where everything would be located. They requested the site plan to be updated, including the existing building and stairs, and a scaled measured elevation drawing would also be helpful. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the scaled measured site plan with existing buildings and stairs is submitted prior to issuance of the certificate. And I will note the applicant did provide that. The basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration.
All right, and do we have the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
Okay, could you state your name for the record?
Brian Swanson.
And you promise to tell the truth, the best of your ability, in your testimony this evening?
I do.
Okay, great. So over to you.
Yes, I just need to add another condenser to the building for another HVAC unit for our kitchen. There's just not enough AC tonnage in there. The kitchen gets up to about 100 degrees. The only place that we can really put the condenser is out back. We know that 2 regular condensers side by side won't work, so we found one that stands up a little taller, a little bit narrower. The new one's a little bit tall to fit underneath the steps that are going to be there, so we're going to shift the existing one that's there under the steps and then put the new one basically in place of where the old one was. Putting the condenser on the roof is not an option.
Okay, let's go through the commissioners and see what comments are out there. Todd?
I don't have any issues with the application as submitted.
Okay, Brooke?
I don't either.
Ben?
I'm more or less done, but I do think that it's appropriate just to put a screen around this. And frankly, you could put both condensers behind that screen, as far as I'm concerned, instead of one under the stair.
And David?
I think we wanted Brian to give clarification as to where specifically it was. I think he's articulated that, and I'm in favor of the application.
Okay, I don't have any further comments. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve this application.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second it, and I'm understanding, so nobody thinks the extended screen would be appropriate for this condition?
I'll defer to staff on that one. Kimberly, do you have any comments there?
I do not.
I'm worried about the amount of air circulation may be a limitation to putting a screen around it. And
Yeah, and that is somewhat of an issue. They do need some space. Otherwise, I would have put this unit inside of the fenced area. But the distance that it needs for air intake would not allow for that.
and servicing.
Yeah, and the unit going underneath the steps. I'm not sure how we would get something in front of that being underneath the steps anyways.
Yeah, well, we're architectural review, so that's a typical kind of solution that you have to work through and around. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, I will call the roll. David?
In favor.
Ben?
No.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so motion carries. Okay, Brian, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, guys.
And okay, we are to number 13.
Yes, this is application number IV-21-06-018 for 1026 North High Street. This proposed work includes construction of an outdoor patio space to wrap around the corner of the building. The proposed patio would be between 4 foot 9 inches to 6 feet wide and measure approximately 27 feet and 5 inches along the facade. The patio would be approximately 4 feet from the existing planter along the sidewalk, and proposed fencing would be stainless steel to measure 36 inches high. Commissioners at the business meeting were not in support of the patio area along North High Street, as it pinched the pedestrian space from the existing planter too much. Commissioners did suggest putting a seating area along the curb or getting the ATM around the corner relocated for seating in that area. Staff recommends continuation of the application to allow the applicant to submit a revised patio design. The basis for the recommendation are the short north design guidelines with the commercial patios and outdoor dining spaces, and the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration.
Okay, who do we have today for the applicant?
Joe Carrico.
Hi, Joe. Will you you stated your name for the record? Will you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
I do.
Okay, great. So over to you.
Well, I just heard your previous statements on the patio down the street. So I do not think you guys will be in support of any patio against the building. Is that correct? No matter the distance.
Can we get Joe's volume up, please? I'm not hearing him.
Hello?
Yeah, I think he was just asking if we'd be in support of anything. We'll go through everybody and talk about that. We can do that right now, Joe, if you want, or we can you can have some more comments and we can.
Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, let's kind of go around the horn here. Todd, you want to start on this one?
Sure. I would agree with the comments from the business meeting, not in support of how close it is to or how much it shrinks down the pedestrian pathway along High Street, but would be open to patio kind of in the courtyard area if some other elements move. And that's it.
Okay, Brooke?
I have nothing to add. I agree with Todd's comments.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. And the basis of this is that it's encroaching more than 50%, or in fact, the way I look at it, it should be no more than 33% of the available space. But I definitely like the idea of the seating area being around the courtyard area, and even the possibility of providing an opening on that south elevation. And then finally, just again, I think we should start getting on the record to suggest our position about allowing seating out closer to the curb as an alternative to these fenced-in areas.
Mhm.
And David?
Then when you speak about putting it on closer to the curb, you're not saying eliminate the parking on High Street, which is temporarily what we see happening with all the orange barrels or the barricades, correct?
I'm saying that that is a toehold for the conversation, but that in a much better form outcome is that you put it on the curb or you on the sidewalk, but in a contiguous manner with the planters.
Gotcha. Okay. I am not in favor of what is being proposed due to the crunching down the public sidewalk that we worked so hard to get. But I also question the building material. I would also, the stainless steel doesn't seem appropriate for the historic Firestone front, fireproof, excuse me, of the railing, and would want to see some other alternative rather than what's being proposed, unless they go into the patio, and then it might match the one that used to be the tiki restaurant or whatever that was that's out there. But I don't think this is the right solution of the fencing style for the front of this building.
Okay, yeah, I'll kind of go next. 4 feet is just real tough. I know a variety of different widths and depths out there down the street, and it's just sort of proving that it just is not functional when we get to that narrow of a sidewalk. And now we're starting to get crowds again. And as we get crowds, it is just, you can't do it. You can't pass somebody in 4 feet. And it's just too skinny. Ben's saying, Joe, obviously you're looking to get something solved right now. And so I understand there's difficulties based on liquor laws and whatnot. But we also understand that right now, at least, during this weird, fading of the pandemic, hopefully time, it appears to me, and I'm no expert on this, but it appears to me people are having drinks all up and down there on those street sections that are cordoned off. And so it looks like we're kind of see, at least temporarily, a little bit of a loosening of what that ruling is all about on how and where and the way you can have drinks outside of businesses. So what we're saying is, if you as somebody who would know more about the liquor industry than we do, could push that envelope. It seems like a lot of other people are up and down the street, and freestanding tables in that little courtyard with people sitting there having drinks sure seems like a pretty cool solution to me. And you don't need that whole courtyard to get back to that door. I know there's the problem with the bank machine. Again, kind of a weird spot for a bank machine anyway, but that's part of that. No, not you're doing. That was part of the agreement that was made back then, and we approved it. It seemed like it'd be great if that was just on High Street with their storefront. So I understand you got some restrictions. And then the last thing that I am sympathetic to is that you don't have the opportunity to do in-street dining because you got a giant bus pad and a bus stop right in front of you. So I get that it's a tough spot. It's just 4 feet is just skinny. And so I just can't deal with that. If you can find a way to move things around further onto the patio side or into the courtyard side, I would certainly be in favor of that. So with that, back to you, Joe, and whatever other thoughts or comments you have for us today.
I definitely understand that. Would the commission have favor to doing something between the bus stop and the planter?
Yeah, I would be in support of that. I think that's what Ben's saying. It wouldn't be a fixed thing. We wouldn't want a fence out there. I think we'd be in favor of you utilizing that space with tables.
That we might even be willing to put a position paper out, or memo from the commission.
Yeah, in general, down the whole street, I think that would be great. And you see it in a lot of other streets where you've got, it's busy cities where you keep the pedestrian space free, and then you have tables out there. And yeah, sure, the waiters and waitresses have to walk back and forth between, but that's just part of the experience of being down there. But you still keep the main pedestrian way wide enough, which is what we're after.
One more quick question. So there'd be not even temporary type fencing out there, it'd just be open.
That is a question that is up for you. That's a possibility. but nothing that would be like affixed to the ground. Yeah, I think temporary could definitely be considered, especially in light of that you have giant temporary, orange barricades just down the street. So yeah, I think if you explore stuff like that, I would, and it sounds like Ben would be in favor of those kind of unusual ideas that were hopefully bridge the gap from everything's fenced, nothing can be outside of that, to, okay, let's think of a little bit of a new way of dealing with the way that people can experience the street.
Absolutely.
So with that, would you be okay with us then continuing this today for you to further investigate those options?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds great. Well, with that, can I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Jason? Yes. Okay, so you're continued. Good luck. We're on your side of figuring out a solution. Unfortunately, this just wasn't the one we could get behind today.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, let's see. I wonder, this is kind of off the topic, but just for staff, it's not on the topic, but off the application. But staff, I can't remember if there was a bus stop for that previous applicant, but if you could potentially suggest to them that they look into the options for the temporary on-street dining, just like a bunch of other people have up the street, that might be useful.
I will try to remember to add that to the feedback I give them.
Thank you very much.
And really, the time might be ripe, and I frankly think we should pick this topic up in our business meeting to discuss a position paper on the even more appropriate way of putting it on, up on the curb, but near the curb instead of in the street or parking space or bus stop and all that stuff.
I agree. And I would like to, we can get into this. I know we got a long agenda, but we could even reach out to Vic Village and, maybe a couple of us can collaborate with them, come up with something, and both commissions can approve. So, okay. So on to 14. Oh, and I have to abstain from 14.
All right. If you can give me a moment, when I PDF'd this, it did not pull up the staff report for number 14. So I am going into my remote desktop in an effort to get this staff report, so I don't have to just wing this. Okay, and it looks like I skipped doing the staff report for that one. So bear with me here. This is application number IB-21-06-019. This is 347 East 5th Avenue, Site 3. This is formerly the site amenity. The application includes the architecture, density, massing, and parking only, with landscaping and exterior lighting. Windows and artwork will be forthcoming. So this is to construct a 4 two-story townhouses with 2 detached garage in their rear north with private yards. It is 2 stories at the north and 1 story at the south. This includes a privacy fence between units. The courtyard is to separate the townhouses and amenity buildings. The amenity building to be located at the corner of Grant and Detroit. The building will be 2 stories at the north, 1 story at the south. The proposed courtyard to include a pool and mechanical building. Courtyard is to be enclosed by a brick fence, and the fence would have a monolith feature and signage. And I do apologize, and thank you for bearing with me here. So I know commissioners at the staff meeting did discuss a couple items on this.
There's some notes on the agenda. Or no, I guess none of the staff notes. I mean,
No, I just pulled up my staff notes because I can do that. So commissioners at the business meeting wanted to see a more of an open park as opposed to a closed off one. The idea that the public spaces belong to the street, and they noted a little bit of a disconnect between the townhomes and amenity buildings. Staff does recommend continuation of the application to allow for revisions based on the comments made by the commissioners at the business meeting, not because she forgot to do the staff report. I just want that for the record. Basis for recommendation is city code, and I don't quite remember it, even though I've been saying it all night, these standards for new construction.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Kimberly. Who do we have will speak tonight? Dan and Matt, both you guys?
Yep.
All right. If you don't mind stating your name for the record, and yeah, let's just do you, Matt. Start there.
Matt Canterbury.
Dan?
Thanks.
All right. Do you guys swear to tell the truth in your testimony this evening?
Sure do.
All
Yes.
right. Perfect. Then go ahead. Let us know what you have.
Thanks a lot. I'll start and then hand it over to Dan. This is the, I believe, fourth time that we've seen this, twice conceptually, once for a preliminary review, and we're on to a secondary review now. And that is predating even before, when we had it as part of Site 2 to discuss larger site moves throughout this. And in its current configuration, this is the third time we've seen the footprints of the buildings exactly where they are, as it states today. With that, we've come back after comments in the previous meeting discussing the architecture, mostly of the amenity building, and having given previously options for the townhomes, in which case a direction, actually options on both the townhomes and the amenity, in which case it led us to our direction today. So I want to hand that over to Dan to talk about some of the architectural changes, and then move forward to discuss the options that we should all be fairly familiar with at this point in time of the building. Thank you.
So if it's all right, I'll start with the townhouses, and we're sort of, those massings are, you know, as we've stated before, they're sort of taking from the Detroit scale and working up. So this is sort of to blend us into the neighborhood. And one of the comments from conceptual review was making sure that we kind of had a break and removal of kind of front porches off the front piece. And so our solution was to sort of separate and get entries between these pieces so that we can kind of break up the masses that way. Then as we get to the amenity buildings, we looked at a couple of options at the last conceptual review. I thought we had liked the notion of kind of the brick warehouse tying into sort of what was possibly sort of in the site there as well through. And so it's a brick building. It's got a lofted base, so it'd actually be the workout zone going through there, sort of harkening back to sort of a factory piece. Brick with metal, simple kind of industrial windows. And then sort of the massing is that we push that front porch so that from the view from Grant, as we then turn through here, we sort of have folks sitting out front, sort of enlivening the neighborhood, kind of the front porch of this amenity piece. You know, we're showing a notion of possibly where we could get some graphics and we'll also signage, but we'll come back into that stuff later. And I'll let you sort of give us some comments.
All right, perfect. Thank you. We'll go around, get commissioner feedback. Brooke, do you mind starting us off?
No, that's fine. I think I've looked at this too many times and now I'm changing my mind a little bit. The amenity building, I was always actually kind of in favor of this, of the roof as it, or as it wraps the porch. I love the idea of having a roof over the wrapped porch, but I wonder, it seems kind of odd. The pitch to it seems a little odd, and it kind of reminds me of the Wild West. And it might fit better with this aesthetic that you're going for if it were flat.
Okay.
That's that. I do like the townhouses very much. And I can't quite understand, I get the wall around the pool area, but is the pool also raised or is it it's raised?
Well, it is, the grade has a slight slope to it. So right now the pool and the amenity building will be at the same grade. There will probably be a fall across that wall as we come down. So pool and amenity building are at the same floor level, but there is probably a foot or so difference
Both
between.
raised from the sidewalk.
Yeah. So I guess understanding that, I'm not in favor of the wall coming out to the sidewalk level. I get what you're trying to do and understand that, you know, you need to have the pool probably in this space, but I wonder if there, I don't know if there is, but I wonder if you rotated the pool and could set it back, if that would allow a little more green space at the sidewalk. So that it's just not, you know, sidewalk, big brick wall. Other than that, I think that's all I have to say.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Brooke. David, any thoughts?
I appreciate what Brooke said regarding the porch, but in a way, I feel it pays homage to like old retail stores, the things we see on High Street in Clintonville, and mimics. It doesn't copy that, but it speaks to those kinds of covers to a retail center. So I'm okay with this the way it's going. I'm not as excited about all four of the houses being exactly the same color. Maybe a cue would be from the soldier houses on Summit, where a step down of color or some variety of color. They seem like monopoly houses, all lined up on a board. Maybe there are a little more variety would make them look more like individual homes. That would be my only suggestion.
I like that idea.
What I do. Leaving them as is, or
No, the idea of changing up the color on them.
I guess the white looks really harsh, doesn't it, to the brick building and what we know the rest of the buildings are. So maybe a little consideration on that.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, David. Ben.
Well, I'll start with those homes. I am less concerned about the unity of them. Because they're scaled nicely, and I think it's the right move to have the entrances set back. It allows the simplicity of the front elevation, the south elevation, with its gable roof and its nice little punches, vertical punches to really sing. So the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is the rectangular form of the additional floor space and how it comes right up to the eave. And I am not convinced that you can resolve that with complete honor, but to the gable house form. But so I'd ask you to take a look at that. But I mean, there are some bigger issues here. So getting over the amenity building, I continue to feel like this amenity building encroaches on the streetscape to the east. I'm thankful for this rendering because the elevations did not do justice to the sense of it. This potentially as a narrative, historical narrative, it being a powerhouse or something like that, a small out industrial building. But it's the way it's you're clashing it with this porch as kind of this, I don't know, it's kind of country home-ish. And so, I mean, I guess it can start to communicate as a dock, but it's just not quite there for me communicating as a dock. And as far as the building it's attached to, the square punch outs of the clear story area feel a little bit like it's wandering away from the industrialness. It's clever architecture, but not necessarily keeping in the sort of narrative and the motif. But the biggest issue for me is that it's just, again, about how we are grabbing what's, this kind of what I thought was going to be park space and making it a pool. And it takes it out of public space and making it your own. And where it could have been just without it being a pool, it doesn't have to have fences, and it can be a community garden. It can be a dog park. It can just be a nice little Christopher Columbus kind of square, or so many other kinds of little green spaces, or even like the Italian Village Park down on Kerr and Hubbard, and be open to everybody from the sidewalk. And so I am, for that reason, feeling kind of negative about where this is going. I would like to see you rethink how you're addressing that park space. And I will leave it there. I think that alone, if we could resolve that, I'd probably look past all the other architectural things that I'm a little concerned about.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Ben. And I just have a couple simple comments. I think with the houses, I think the only thing that I would need a little clarification on the houses is just really some of the detailing. I mean, it looks like you're just using hardy siding, but it's got a very minimalistic detailing in some of the drawings, especially. So, just better understanding how the actual detailing around the windows at the corners really work to pull off that simplistic detailing. I think I'd want to see more of that. And then as we kind of shift over to the amenity building, the maintenance building that's in the pool area feels more like it should be of the aesthetic or the typology of the maintenance building versus a miniature version of the homes. But that's a small detail. And then with the amenity building, I like the way that it's trying to address the street corner in kind of an interesting way. But I do get a little hung up with right in the middle of where Brooke and David were about the canopy, what feels appropriate and doesn't. And I guess I lean a little bit more towards, because it has a very kind of train station-y vibe, old times train station-y vibe right now. And for some reason, I feel like a steel canopy would be a little bit more appropriate in the fact that it could potentially turn the corner a little bit. Like, I appreciate how it's inviting people into the building, but really doesn't protect the pool side at all, which is actually the amenity. It just kind of stops at the building, and it feels like maybe a steel canopy could turn the corner a little bit more simply, and give you that ability. I think that's the part for me that it works in this view, but when you turn around looking at the pool, it just kind of falls short a little bit, and it loses some of that shading and things that feels like should turn that corner. So, but those are my kind of just a few comments. So, with that, Dan and Matt, if you have any other comments or responses to those, we can listen.
Sorry, yeah, a couple there, just to kind of go through a checklist of things I think we can take a look at. Brooke, your comment about the brick wall landscape, we're trying to do something because of code requirements that's a little more unique and potentially a little bit more urban than that of a fence for privacy and code around there, right? So understanding there might want to be a little bit more relief. I've got that down as a note. David, you have been the beacon of consistency with the soldier homes. We tried to match the architecture to a degree. I hear you on color. We'll study it. Ben, one thing about the narrative of, and kind of for everybody with the comments regarding the canopy of the amenity building, is if we can go to one more. There we go. Boom, that image there. There's a building to the north of here on the Omni property we don't own that is a really neat looking brick, used to be utilitarian, almost carriage housey. So kind of taking that boxy feel down here a little bit. We've always envisioned the smaller of the two boxes as being what was almost the customer service area for the utility, right? and to kind of take that, repurpose where the entry doors were, and to create a public space there is sort of the narrative by which we've been thinking and operating. So I think, and I saw Dan kind of nod on a couple things in terms of taking some cues about how to handle that patio. So we'll study that for sure, and the detailing. And I think really that some of the other things are fairly easy to address. So I think we'd be fine with a continuation and hopefully detail this enough to show that and to prove to ourselves a little bit that things such as the eave and the flat roof component work the way that we're intending them to, and come back for hopefully a final next time.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. With that, I entertain a motion to continue.
So moved.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We'll do roll. David.
In favor.
All right. Brooke.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So motion continued. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, we are
All right, number 15 is application number IV-06-020. This is for 281-289 East Detroit Avenue. This application is to change the primary exterior materials from masonry to fiber cement siding, and to change the east building garage door from 2 9-foot wide doors to a single 16-foot wide doors or single door to facilitate maneuvering in a tight alley. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to confirm shiplap was being used. If it is, they were also going to need to see changes to the corners, trim, etc. Commissioners did note that the garage door is okay, but that's also dependent on its materials. If the cut product sheet could be supplied, that was also requested after the business meeting. Staff recommends continuance of the application to allow for the submitted changes of the material with the detailing of the corners, trim, etc. The basis for recommendation is the standards for alteration at 3116.11. And Carrick has already been sworn in.
sounds good. All right, take it away, Carrick. You already are in the books.
Good evening again. To answer your question, yes, it's a standard fiber cement lap siding, 6-inch exposure. There's, fiber cement trims around the windows, and the parapet is just a simple, standard aluminum parapet cap. Those are the things that have changed. The door specification is actually in the drawing. It's the same door we've been specifying on the other projects. It's that flush steel garage door by Clopay. I feel like that answers the questions that were brought up at the business meeting. There's still a masonry water table at the base that's called out there. So I guess I'll take your questions and try to answer them.
Okay, I'll go through. Let's start, Ben.
Yeah, I don't want to slide past this too casually. I mean, the changing this from brick to a apparent wood it changes a lot of details, including the windows, and frankly, maybe even the whole form itself. And we've seen a few buildings in the past where it's developed in this kind of square form, but using wood materials, and it doesn't come across as modern or traditional. It just comes across as a strange amalgam of both. So in order of importance, I'm at least going to hold your feet to the fire on more appropriate trim and corner and coping details that go with a quote unquote wood sided home, and maybe in the worst case scenario to look at the roof line altogether, if and or just encourage you to stick with the brick.
Okay, Brooke?
I think those are really good comments. I agree with the need for detailing if the fiber cement is going to continue, because it does look like a brick building. So I have nothing more to add from what Ben has suggested.
Okay, David?
I sense from the two comments that we've heard so far, this is going to be continued. So I would just like to add, the next time we see it, let's go ahead and get the exterior lighting on. For example, what's over the garage doors, what's up on the sliding doors on the balcony, what's on the first floor lighting. I would like to see more attention put to that, as well as we discuss the other details about windows, etc.
Okay, and Todd?
Totally agree. I think that this being cement siding it's kind of a totally different building potentially. So those details are important to make sure this will actually come across the way it's intended versus just kind of feeling like there's no character to it, just being cement siding everywhere. So I'm in favor of continuation.
I don't really have anything else to add. So Carrick, are you okay with us continuing this?
Can I get a sense of the size of the door? In the event that we stay with the masonry, is going to a single door on the alley acceptable?
Anybody want to comment on that?
I don't think it would be unacceptable.
You don't think it would be unacceptable?
Is that something I would need to come back for, assuming that everything else about the building stays as the issued certificate of appropriateness? Is that something staff can address?
Which door are we
So-
talking about? The back door?
It's the big
The,
garage door.
Oh,
the garage door on the alley.
I would be okay with it in the sense if it was brick, it feels a little bit more industrial. It feels like a warehouse style door. I'd be okay with it.
Agreed.
Yeah, good point.
Others?
Is that something that needs a vote?
Staff, what do you recommend in that case?
So since it was part of this application and it seems like we've got most of the commissioner's support for it, I would recommend approving it here. So I could get it out as part of the feedback as opposed to sending Carrick different feedback, having him submit an application or me getting around to splitting the application. It would just be part of the feedback that I have to do. So there wouldn't be anything extra. So you could split the application into A and B and vote on the siding and then vote on the door.
Okay.
Or since, depending on if Carrick agrees to it, you could vote on keeping the brick siding with the change to the garage door. It would just, Carrick would need to agree to that because that would change the application.
Gotcha. Okay, so Carrick, are you okay with us tabling the rest of it outside of that door?
Yes.
So would anybody care to make one of the two suggested motions? One for continuing, one for the door?
I'm going to recommend we continue. I will make a motion to.
But hold on, I guess technically we should do the door first if we're going to do the door. Is that correct, staff?
I make a motion that we approve a double wide door.
And
second.
okay, staff, do you need any clarifications on that?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll call the roll. David?
Approve.
Ben?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Yes.
And Jason, yes. Okay, so that's carried. And then David, do you still hold your motion for continuance?
Well, my understanding is we need him to find out whether the client is willing to go back to the brick. Otherwise, if it's going to say the hardy board, we want to see more details. And needs to come back.
So, Carrick, would you like to, what would you like to do?
A continuation of that is fine.
Okay.
So the motion will be to continue the application.
Okay, and then do I have a second?
Second.
I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And Jason's yes. Okay, so let's continue. Thanks, Carrick. Sure, we'll see you again here in a little bit. Okay, what are we up to? Number 16.
All right. This is 807 Hamlet, which is IV-21-06-021. This is to demolish an existing two-car garage, construct a story and a half two-car garage. The proposed garage would have two garage doors and then a single man door into the yard. The garage would include a second-story balcony facing the yard. I've included the commissioner comments from the May 11th, 2021 hearing. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that the balcony facing the yard is more appropriate. Cut-in product sheets were needed for the garage doors. Commissioners do not approve of these doors being the stamped steel. There was some confusion as if the exterior walls were extending past the balcony or not. A floor plan of the floors showing this was requested. Staff does recommend approval of the application with any clarifications, modifications made by the commissioners. And this is based on 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
All right. The applicant is here today.
Yes, Michael Maestritz.
Okay. And you've already stated your name for the record. Will you promise to tell the truth to the best of your ability in your testimony this evening?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so over to you.
Really, this continuation is really just the only thing that really changed was the garage door. I made a selection for the garage door that differs from what we had before to make sure it's known it's not going to be just a paneled steel door. It's actually a wood door. I did provide the cut sheet of the door and a redone rendering of it as well, just to show what it generally will look like in the alley. But other than that, it seemed like nothing else was a major issue. So the clarification on the patio is yes, we are the roof line does extend over the patio completely. So that's why you don't see any of the railing from the sides, because it is fully enclosed by the roof on the rear.
Let's go around to the commissioners, see what everybody says. Brooke, do you have thoughts?
I like this project very much. I was the one who was confused on where the upper porch was. And then once I figured it out, I thought it was pretty clever. So yes, I'm in favor of this.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic job. Good response. I think you're going to like it. And also, I support the door selection as well.
David?
I'd like to ask the applicant if he would entertain one possible change. It's on the elevation with the garage doors. And instead of 3 lights at the top of the door frame, would he consider staying more with our village standard, and that is gooseneck lights over the center of the doors on that side? I don't have any problem with the lights on the backyard side, but this doesn't seem like a typical alley solution for our village.
No, absolutely. We can easily make that change. No problem.
Well, thank you. And with that, I would say I approve this project. We'll vote to approve this project.
Sounds good.
Nothing to add in support of this project.
Yep, I am as well. So with that, can I have a motion that includes that condition?
I'll make the motion to approve this application, understanding that the applicant is willing to use 2 gooseneck lights centered over the garage doors, 1 each door, and let staff go forward with it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I will call the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Jason? Motion carries. Okay, thanks so much.
To the applicant, thank you for making the changes you have made.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
Okay, great. All right, for actually 20, I think. Is that
Yes, 21, we're taking one out of order. I mentioned something at the business meeting that an additional application might appear. This is it. So this is IB-21-06-026. This is also for 347 East 5th Avenue. This is for Site 1, the site amenity. This application is to construct the brick amenity building. There will be a metal awning over the main entrance at the corner with the Russo stretching around its corner. Staff at the business meeting noted that this might be added. The application does address comments from the May hearing regarding Site 1. I would like to pose the questions. Does the brick work better with the single or multiple bricks? And should the detail be included all the way around the building? Although I think the applicant updated some stuff, so I'm not sure if that's still relevant. Staff does recommend the approval of the application with any clarifications and modifications made by the commissioner. This is based on City Code 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
and I'm abstaining from this one as well, so I'll push over to Todd.
Okay, perfect. Dan and Matt, you guys are already sworn in, so you can just go ahead and walk us through the application.
Okay, one
Sure.
thing, if I could, real quick, sorry, yeah. So I want to kind of give a little background to this, and we actually took a cue in this change. Architecturally, we had gone for architectural last meeting, full approval, and so we got massing and density. These were the comments that we're addressing that were basically the items left on the table from architectural, and it has to do with that amenity building. So there are a couple things Dan will walk you through, but I want to kind of talk about why. Functionally, to have a leasing and amenity area set inside of your block, we've started to talk about and develop the landscaping and environmental graphics package that'll be in front of you here soon. And we were struggling with the fact that traditional to Italian village signage and directional signage to a leasing center, so to say, is not something that is typically looked fondly upon. So beyond all the details of approval here, we did a brick change. And there were comments last time, and I forgive me, I can't remember who it was, so I won't misname you. Feel free to take credit later. But where the old amenity building and the old design had the dark brick that was really handsome, and we thought, okay, in the absence of having to do a street sign, what if we said we could direct people by the dark brick building in the middle? Go there. It's got a sign on the corner of it. So that's a pretense behind all of this, and a couple of the changes that you're seeing, as well as the detailing in the back elevation that Dan will go through next.
Great, thanks, Matt. So I think really that sort of was some of the biggest changes that we've done at the questions that you had originally when we brought this to you in front of architecture on the amenity building was, how are we handling the cap of the building? And there was also some questions on sort of coloration of the brick. And so, like Matt said, we really actually liked how this looked sort of a couple designs ago with sort of this darker brick. And so we've got a continuation in the cap, just so I think that detailing's got a little bit cleaned up. The metal canopy, I think we've included some additional detailings in for that with some questions. And we've also made this dark brick sort of span the amenity building itself, and then we're using the red brick of the warehouse building for the facing of the garage, so that this thing will sort of pop and stand a bit. And then elevationally in the package, we've also shown what that's looking like at the top deck, because at the top deck there's actually another garden terrace, if you will, that'll be using this second level of the piece. So, and the elevations there, so that you can kind of see in that east elevation up top, the what that elevation's looking like as the thing sort of turns the corner. That'll be overlooking another garden that's happening up above.
Whoops.
All right, perfect. That's helpful. Let me go around and get some comments. Ben, do you mind starting?
No, I first of all, in terms of the brick and changing color and so forth, I think you've made the right choices. I think it feels more like a full building now. Notwithstanding that some might prefer a more traditional color, I'm fine with this, and I appreciate the fact that you've dealt with the caps and especially the parapet, the peaked parapets. I also think while we're on this particular elevation that you've set up these above all the glazing. You've set up this kind of panel as if in this traditional kind of like building identity element. And I think that's the right move, but it's really intended more for a continuation of a brick kind of resolution of material. So I don't think it's appropriate just to throw dimensional metal letters up there. I think you throw that effort at your entrances and let those panels be either a carved brick or some sort of relief brick or specialized or stone or something else that falls in the category of masonry instead of applique.
So if I don't want to interrupt, but so I think we'll be coming back with sort of the graphic, and obviously the building won't be called the amenity building. And in fact, whether or not we actually do signage up in that band is still sort of up for debate internally in the team. So right now, we really want to get it on the canopy. We would like to sort of show sort of that relief in the brick up above, and we're using sort of a glazed brick and a dark black brick to sort of, and they're both sort of the dark
I think all
gray.
this sound fine, and if you do nothing or lettering up there, I think it's fine also. So and then
Let us
coming
come
back
back to you with the naming, with that channel letter piece, if that's all right. Or nothing, basically, right? So I guess what I'm asking is, can we just look at remove that channel lettering from this submittal and talk about it later?
Sure.
Are you talking about at the canopy?
I'm talking, well, we want to get a graphic at the canopy and where it says amenity building now. If what we come back with on that, we'll come back with it in our graphics. And that could be nothing. Is sort of where I'm at with it, but.
Okay, well, just note the comments I made so far.
Yep.
I'll jump
As
in
far
if
as
you would let me stay on that image that you just did. Obviously, you're studying a lot of typefaces, the lowercase the, and then also that's on the wall right where your cursor is right at the moment. Obviously, it doesn't match the typography that's over on the canopy, which I don't think also matches the one that's up in amenity building. So I would also agree, let's leave the typography off of the upper part of the building. Yes to the canopy, but then make sure it's matching whatever's on the wall.
Right. Agreed.
I was
Lowercase,
getting
uppercase.
there, but yes, David is expressing a concern I have is just make up your mind about continuity of the graphics package.
I think this is Dan's subtle hint at us that we haven't given him, our graphics group has not given him an identity yet. So he's throwing these things at us to
Good. Let's blame it on that then, Dan. Okay.
As far as the canopy goes, I've been keeping your feet to the fire about an appropriate set of materials and construction detailing. I'm always very concerned when I see constructed canopies instead of steel forms. It looks like Daniel's got this more or less under control, except for the fact I don't know how his detailing will evolve for the construction crew and when they hit the miters. So we've seen a lot of fails right at the corner. And so before I throw up all my support behind this particular construction detail with the ACM, I guess it's probably is to show us a few photos of construction of this type at the corners, so we know that that's making its way into your construction documents. I think that's all you're asking for on this, right? We talked about graphics, we talked about the brick color and the color
Right.
wrapping and so forth, correct? Did I miss something?
Just for clarity, this is the only piece you guys asked for clarification on for total Site 1 architectural approval. So this is all we came back and rehandled. So
Right.
in what we're looking for is Site 1 architectural approval, period.
Correct.
Well, we requested some photographs of or some other detailing images for this canopy. So do you have any of that tonight?
Well, we've come back with sort of the steel detailing or the canopy detailings in this package.
Yeah, based upon your miter, Ben, I'd even be willing to one up that a little bit.
If we could.
Notes in the documents to staff, as well as I'm particularly interested in making sure it worked. So I would make my contractor put a little mock-up together. And if it would give you more comfort to have staff approve that, that's fine at that point in time for me as well.
If that's in the record and you submit the outcome to that to staff, that'd be awesome. It's good to hear that you're behind that.
I'm concerned about that detail as well.
All right, David, do you have any additional comments?
No.
Okay. Brooke?
No, I don't have anything else to add. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I really like the brick. I think that was a smart move.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that, and I'm in favor of the color changes. I think that helps. Being all the dark brick helps my concern about the change of the parapet height on kind of the side of the building. Just the one color, I think, does enough for me to get kind of past that. So, and in favor of the canopies and the way they're currently shown, and so I'm good with that too. So you guys have kind of reacted to some of the early comments. Anything else you want to? Anything else that was raised, or you ready for us to take a vote?
No, I think we're good for a vote.
All right, perfect. Is somebody willing to make a motion for on this application?
Staff just wants to know the approval is for all of Site 1's architecture, not just this piece.
Correct. All of Site 1.
I'll make that motion. I move on application 21-06-026 347 East Fifth Avenue, Site 1, to approve as submitted tonight, with the stipulation that that the applicant will provide further specification, clarification of the canopy, indicating how the miter works out. As a substitute for that, they can submit photographs of any mock-ups that have been fabricated for the owner. This motion excludes any graphics.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you. We'll go around. Ben?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
I am also a yes, so the motion carries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are on exceptional. Is that correct?
Yes, and I will call out, it is 6:19. I just want to make sure nobody has any hard stops.
Is everybody okay to work our way through these last conceptuals?
I'm good till 7, and then I've got to exit.
Okay. So we've got 40 minutes, 10 for each of these. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Number 17.
All right, this is IB-21-06-022. This is for 186 East 4th Avenue. This was the conceptual review to demolish the existing concrete block garage that fronts East 4th Avenue, split the lot to create two parcels. The garage would include a canopy facing the alley and a second-story balcony facing the yard. The commissioners were supportive of having the access off of Greenwood, questioned if the existing garage was of significance. Staff did pull the 1922 and 1955 Sanborn maps, which show a single structure on the lot. These have been included in the materials, as well as the historic photo that Alex just showed. The county auditor does list the effective construction date as 1961, and the file notes that a dilapidated chimney was removed from the structure in 1985. No photos were provided with the application for that, though. There was a 1982 building summary form, which noted that a rectangular structure was at the location and that it used to be a used car business. That first photo we saw was included with that form. So this does look like it is it may be historic. The commission needs to decide if it is a contributing structure. So this is a conceptual review, so commissioners should offer feedback for our applicant to use at a further hearing. The basis for recommendation is the standards for new construction, and that's 3116.12, as well as the standards for demolition, the 3116.14.
Okay.
And Carrick's still sworn in.
Okay, Carrick, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the main question is addressing the existing garage and what you folks feel about it as an existing structure among the houses adjacent to it. I think the next thing to focus on would be the lot split, and then the potential lot coverage that we're suggesting with you know, a new home in the rear. The architecture, I think, is, you know, fairly typical for single family homes in the area that you've approved previously, and you know, we can work on the details later.
Okay, this is conceptual, correct? So we're just blasting through. I think it's historic. I think it has character. I think with this here, if it's remade into a new use, this little street section is incredibly cool. And without it, it is just like everything else, which is not necessarily bad, but it's cool. And just on sheer cool factor, let alone the fact that it's been you know, around for, at this point, what, 60 some years at least, and maybe longer. I don't feel real inclined to have that demolished. I think it could be a super cool adaptive reuse, and residential could certainly go in there. We've seen that in a lot of other spots. And you know, this street, you've got sort of an industrial neighborhood use across the street, and then right down the corner, you've got a couple tall one-story buildings that are getting used as different commercial uses. So yeah, I'm not feeling good about it. So I'll pass it off to everybody else, see what they think. Ben?
I feel similarly. I think there can be a new use found for that block garage, and I think that it could be that this site could be a single property with a compound in the middle that's just a little more valuable property, and that you know, so in other words, the garage is facing 4th Avenue and the home is facing Greenwood. I would, to that end, support a little bit more lot coverage than I would typically, but I happen to think that the proposed home is too tall compared to the other, you know, typical homes on Greenwood. You know, the homes on Greenwood should be very unpretentious, at least at how they meet Greenwood. It's possible that just based on extension, that it could have a lot of square footage. And which leads me finally that when I started this evening, I thought I supported the lot split, and I may still, but in either case, I don't really support the third structure as a garage in between. So If the future owner of this home has to have garage, then I think you should figure out a way to implement the current old structure without demolishing it. And, you know, try to make the best out of a center garden and compound in the middle.
Brooke?
I agree with everything that's been said thus far. I have nothing more to add.
Okay, David?
I tend to favor keeping the structure and trying to turn it into maybe a more important living unit, drawing from the Prescott condominium project as an inspiration for that. And I agree that the proposed new building is way too tall,
Yeah.
way too much ornamentation in the roof. It needs to be definitely simplified.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Todd?
I totally agree with exactly what David just said. I think I could be okay with a lot split depending on what happens, but should try and keep the garage, and the proposed buildings are just too tall and skinny and kind of out of proportion.
Yep.
Can you provide some feedback on using the existing garage and existing garage door as a garage with a residence being the rest of the building?
Yeah,
I'm going to jump in and say that's.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. And I said there's another good example in the community. That's the Sawtooth building behind the Italian Village Market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have the built-in advantage that you actually do have a garage facing the street on this street, which obviously would be something we probably wouldn't, we wouldn't likely allow now. But you've got it there, and it's part of the fabric of the street for a long time. So,
And David's recommendation about Prescott is a great one.
Yep.
Or, as a reference.
I think we could envision going up on top of the garage and back to the north, but we would want to keep the southeast and west in position and not modify that particularly. Yeah, right there.
So the front of the structure needs to remain generally whole, but we can go taller as we get away from the 4th Street facade.
Yeah, that'll give
I
you a
think that's
rooftop garden.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want it to be like a balcony situation, like pressed right up against it. I think if you got a little bit back, I think it'd be really be great.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. I
The units
think
on the
that's
back
probably
side of this building would be a real inspiration.
okay.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Move
Thank
on.
you. I think up next as well, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
All right. So staff, what do you have on the next one?
So this is IV-21-06-022. This is 1020 North 4th Street. So this was for conceptual review to construct a 4-story 57-unit apartment building and to demolish the existing homes on 3rd Street. Commissioners at the business meeting and the Historic Preservation Office were not supportive of tearing down the 2 existing homes just to build the apartment buildings. Commissioners noted that they thought that the area was overprogrammed. Removing the 2 existing homes would remove an existing pattern to the buildings, varying sizes and scales in the area. And the existing homes do appear to be in good condition. Additional information and documentation would be needed to show any deterioration or damage, including photographs and structural information. Now, Carrick did provide a revised site plan, which I think it should be at the bottom of this packet, but I did update it today. So, which that revision included keeping those 2 structures and rethinking some of the programmatic elements, so there wouldn't be a parking garage. Since this is conceptual, please provide feedback so he can use it at a later hearing. The basis for recommendation is 3116.12, the standards for new construction. And Alex, let me know if that didn't upload correctly.
Yeah, just looking at that, it's the new page 4 of the PDF, I assume. Is that right? It
Yes.
says updated drawings. Yeah, I think that's on the right track. I mean, I'm comfortable with a curb cut either on Third or Peru, but I know some of the commissioners were more thinking it'd be appropriate on Third. Yeah, I think you're on the right track with that. I like that there's activated space, including an actual leasable retail storefront that's on the 4th Street side, as well as the lobby of the building. That makes perfect sense as where people would enter. So I think that is on the right track. As for demolishing the houses, I can't be in favor of that. So let's come around. Everybody, Todd.
Yeah, I'm looking at that update now, and I think you're right, Jason. It's on the right track, and I would not be in favor of taking down the existing homes.
Just real quickly, just to clarify, staff, you said that then this would just be first floor parking and there's no garage in this one, right?
I believe so. From what I quickly looked at it this morning as I realized that it got lost in an email box.
Gotcha. Okay, Brooke?
Well, no, I mean, it's all the parking is covered, but it doesn't go above or below grade. So there,
yeah, right. I gotcha. It's not
Right.
a below grade. It's not a big ramp or anything.
Correct. Yeah, it would just be an at-grade entrance. The one thing that I really wanted to focus on, because it's been one of the focuses of our conversations about how to use this site, is the relief of the building from the existing homes. And so you can see I dimensioned that from the rear of the home furthest north, we would be 15 feet.
Yep.
But before the new structure started.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, let's keep going just to make sure we get through these. So, Brooke, did you have thoughts?
No, I don't have anything to add other than I don't think it would be right to take down these homes. They look like they're in pretty good shape.
Okay, David?
Yeah, nothing else to add at this time.
Ben?
Yeah, no demo for sure. And I still stand behind that. I think there's too much program on this site. You're asking too much of it. There should not have to be this problem of so much parking. There are a lot of good cues for other types of use for, whether it's a Seventh Son kind of site, or it's a Fox in the Snow, or it's or it's the soldier homes on 3rd Street. So, maybe we should be taking our cue from the homes beyond not tearing them down. Maybe you should be taking your cues from those homes and continuing a couple more homes towards 4th Street, or again, yes, turn their face towards 4th Street, but it's just a lower rise kind of structure, and not trying to force so much volume on the second tier behind the retail facade. There's just too much program on this site, and it's forcing a lot of bad kind of choices for these two homes.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Carrick, what else do you need from us today on this one?
I think your comments are understood.
All right. Sounds good. Staff, what else do you need?
I'm good as long as Carrick's good.
All right. In that case, I think we're ready to move on to our final 2 applications.
Yes, so we're starting off with
Yep, thanks.
number 19, which is IV-21-06-024. This is 608 North High Street. This is the conceptual review to add a mezzanine to the 2nd level for a roof deck and alternate workspace for the office user on level 2. The mezzanine would add a glass railing along the south elevation, and there would be a removal of portion of the historic wall along the south elevation to input the modern glass curtain window and enclose a portion of the 3rd story space to match. This section would overhang the current wall. This also includes replacing existing historic window configuration to allow for a window and door system that would allow for the windows to completely open up to the street and park. Level 1 is contemplating replacing the existing, and I'm going to apologize because I have some typos in here I didn't fix, but it would no longer exiting the storefront with an appropriate window and door system that complements the existing character of the architecture. The new addition is a modern expression of glass and metal. Commissioners at the business meeting thought that there was good dialogue going on, suggested that the applicant look at the different roofs and incorporate the middle vaulted roof into the proposed design. Commissioners also noted that they needed more time to look at this as well. HPO staff does not find the proposed project appropriate and does not support it. Per City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 9. The proposed renovations remove the historic storefront and portions of the original siding by adding the glass block. Such modifications can be made without obliterating the contributing architectural features. The Italian Village Commission is tasked with preservation, and the basis for reviewing projects should follow the City Code Italian Village Guidelines and the Short North Design Guidelines. The modification allowed at 700 North High Street, that's COA IV-21-02-008, were allowed as the structure has been modified numerous times over the course of its existence. The structure at this address has not suffered from as many non-historic modifications or loss of historic fabric. Commissioners, as always, for conceptual reviews should offer feedback so the applicant can use it as a future hearing. The basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10.
Okay, who do we have from the applicant here today?
Tyler Pohl.
Hi, Tyler. And who else?
Dan Haynes.
Okay, and Dan. Dan, you've already been sworn in. Tyler, do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this evening to the best of your ability?
I do.
Okay, so over to both of you.
Do you want me to walk them through, Tyler?
Go for it.
Okay, so what this concept is really looking at is maintaining the building sort of as a ground level as a the sort of use-wise would be a restaurant, with the upper level of turning that into a functioning office space. And that what we really wanted to do is looking at a way of getting a mezzanine that would happen that we could also get looks and overviews of downtown. We looked at that sort of that pop-up a few ways, and where we ended up liking it the best is sort of this expression of the cube. And the reason for that is kind of how it's set up, not just on the, we want to maintain sort of the historic fabric from the front street view, but as we're pulling back sort of the dialogue between this and the hotel that's happening right behind it, of just sort of stepping the view and sort of the dimensionality of it up, I think is actually enhances sort of the existing building, doesn't really detract from it. So that was kind of where we ended up and why we kind of pushed that out a bit.
I would just also follow up that I would be happy to invite any commissioners to come look at the building. It's about as derelict as structures come in the neighborhood in 2021. Floors are sagging. There's no storefront to speak of on the front of the building. So we really, use that as a cue to try and reinvent the building and make it a benefit to the gateway of the neighborhood, when right now it's a derelict building, and it's been like that for what, 5-6 years since the dry cleaners left. So,
okay, let's go around and hear what people have to say. Todd?
Yeah, you're gonna make me go first, Jason. Nice.
Hey, it's your last meeting.
Yeah, then I can just say whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I guess I think it's an interesting concept, honestly. I think it's interesting in the fact that this building has struggled. It's so critical, but it has struggled for such a long time. that I actually like the concept and the fact that it still embraces the pocket park. It stays within kind of an infill of the building. There's the front High Street side, and then there's a different kind of vernacular, and then there's that third in the back, and it stays in the section that I think is probably the most not interesting. Unfortunately, you lose the three chimneys, which I think are an interesting element to this, but for what I think you get back, I'd be willing to be okay with that. There are a few things. I think the storefront, not really okay with how it's proposed right now. I think it has to be much more traditional, and we've seen other ways that it can open up, just not this way where it opens completely up. And then I think the only other thing as it moved forward was just making sure that the cube could accommodate the office environment. I mean, I know there's kind of some floor plans, obviously early, that show kind of workstations right up against that window. It very much has a assembly style restaurant feeling right now, and not so much an office space. So, you know, that can get worked out, I'm sure. But I think as an early concept, I like the change to kind of reinvigorate this whole corner as the gateway. So that's my thoughts.
Ben?
I'm actually with Todd on this. I think that this is a really respectful kind of dialogue with that existing building. And there's a couple reasons that are kind of quiet about it. First of all, I did also notice how this perch over the square serves a little bit of a purchase and honor to the park at the same time as its architectural piece to the building itself. But this building is really cobbled together from like 3 buildings at least, and it might be even 4 depending if you're counting the way the storefront works. But so in a way, I feel like this conceptually works because it's saying, you know, we understand this whole thing is just kind of a bunch of blocks, and we are speaking its language. So I like the fact that it stands out in contrast to materials, so it shows clearly that it's the different thing. I think this is a good case in point when you don't try to match existing materials. And I think the way that with the glass guardrail towards the front storefront connecting back to the cube is a reasonably respectable way to kind of engage what is really an awkward parapet transition from the front of the building towards the back, or the second structure. I'm with Todd that I would highly encourage everybody to fall in line to consider a more traditional knee wall out front, and if we want openings, that happen along the south elevation, further back, hopefully. But I think it's important, if we're going to give the liberty of having this really dynamic element, that there's a certain kind of homage we need to, or honor we have to pay to the existing storefront, and would like to see that happen. So, so far, so good. I think it's the right thing, and it's not too overpowering, and is good for this cobbled together building.
David?
I'm more focused on Todd's comments that he spoke, so I don't want to take more of our time. But could we go to the third floor plan just a minute? I have where's your second means of egress if you have all these people up on that floor? There's only one stair exit. I don't understand how it really works yet. So the fact that you'd put 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people on a solid glass side facing south, there's parts that don't work from what we're seeing. So that's why it's conceptual, but I think there's got to be a lot more thought on that.
And Brooke?
I'll just add, just a couple things. I think it's a really nice concept, and appreciate the maintaining the high street facade height of the parapet and so on. I would think, though, however, that if you're going to add this cube, that it would be again, to Todd's comment and David's comments about the work environment there, if it were more activated, if whatever the program ends up being, if it would allow a more collaborative workspace, something that would just energize that cube a little more beyond other cubes and a work counter. So, but I realize it's conceptual, and other than that, I think it's really interesting, and it'll be fun to see how this develops.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think I'm really in line with what you were saying, Ben, how I think this Parkside allows us to do a little bit of a different approach than the storefront. Not that it has to be a complete 100%, non-opening storefront, but I do think to focus those really, more opening sides onto the park is probably more useful anyway. And to get the storefront to have a little more on the typical knee wall. And again, I'm not exactly familiar with how this system works, so maybe it does achieve that, but I feel like a more standard approach to the front might be ideal. That being said, I do like the way you're attacking the side of this. The previous, one of the numerous previous applications that came in, I was much more concerned with how that slope roof was going to be impacted. They were going to kind of flatten it out and just put up a parapet down the whole thing. I think with this transparency and sort of changing the fundamental characteristic of the way the side of the building works, it has a different feel for me now, and I do like it. I think the one thing we all should note, and I'm not against it or for it at this point, just note that they are proposing sort of bringing these glass entries on the side a little bit further toward the front of the building under that window. And again, maybe that's a good thing. But I think as we all get out there and look at this site over the next month and walk by it, it's probably helpful to kind of envision what we think it could be and what the pros and cons are of the way they're changing that first floor. So overall, I think you're in a great direction, and I'm excited to see your continued iterations. So with that, what else do you need from us today as far as this review?
For me, I think it's good.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
6:48.
All right, moving on to the application number 20, IV-21-06-025. This is 47 and 53 East First Avenue. This is to construct a 2-unit townhouse. The proposed townhouse would be 2.5 stories high at 30 feet tall maximum and would measure approximately 49 feet wide by 45 feet deep. The proposed plan would require 2 lot splits and a combination of the rear of 47 and 53 East First Avenue. Parking is proposed in front of the duplex along the alley. Decorative landscaping, screens, and bushes are proposed in the front yard. The commissioners at the business meeting thought that the scaling and design were closer than previous submissions. Commissioners did suggest a simplified Ernest Italian Village courtyard apartments. Commissioners should offer feedback that can be utilized at a future hearing. The basis for recommendation is 3116.12 of the standards for new construction. Jason, you're muted.
Sorry. Who's the applicant for this one today?
Michael Maestros.
Okay, Michael, you're already sworn in, so we'll turn it over to you.
Well, really, this, as we know, some of the other applications or attempts at this we're scaling it down to, we're now down to a 2-unit proposed a duplex on this site. Putting this, we're trying to maintain a sort of respect to the old the house on the corner, which is definitely it's a smaller scale house. So we've scaled down our product to less than 30 feet and also pushed it towards the back away from the alley to also keep a respectable distance from that particular property to not overshadow it with a scale issue with our height. So that was also a way to also keep any vehicle maneuvering off the alley, create a little parking area off of the alley for the residents of this unit and the other existing units that currently use those this little parking area that's there. It's the same area for the parking that exists. It's just it would just be redone with some with a screening wall and some landscape screening as well to block headlights in any direction, whether it be towards the existing houses or back towards the alley, other than the actual access point. The design is keeping with the masonry facade, possibly doing a two-tone brick concept and then a little concrete access on the or accent piece for the balcony in the front, which also acts as a canopy for both entries to the units. So during the business meeting, there was not a lot of time. Mr. Cook didn't have enough time to really absorb it, so we're just looking for some really some conceptual feedback at this point from the commissioners.
Okay, great. David, do you want to start?
Well, I'm having a problem between now the elevations of this rendering and this sort of Bauhaus design, and then comparing it to this. I'm not seeing how those are meshing up yet. I am highly opposed to a rooftop patio, the extra height, party time on top of the deck. It overwhelms the other two architectural structures that are so significant to our neighborhood with history, etc. You see it in the upper right-hand corner, and look at the scale of that, and then what's being proposed. It even looks bigger than the Victorian next door to it. So I still have a major problem with it. I appreciate it's getting smaller and smaller. That's better, but I don't think we're there yet. This is conceptual. We'll let the other commissioners talk because of our time limitations, but I don't see how this is compatible with something that's so important to our neighborhood.
Okay, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just the cohesiveness as you go around with the window sizes and stuff, especially on the north and south elevations, could use a little work just to fit a little bit more into the context. The entry kind of canopy accent, I think that could be simplified, and the front doors to be a little bit more residential in their traditional form. And then, I mean, my big one honestly was not really in favor of the parking in front of these buildings, but now you mentioned that parking lot is already there. So I guess I could get behind that. But other than that, I agree with David's comments. I think just some more consistency and simplicity of the windows as it moves around the building, and then some simplicity of the canopies, I think, would just help this kind of building fit amongst all the others.
Okay, Ben?
Well, I'm not sure that the scale, I'm following the logic for the scale. I think if it's going to try to, pay some sort of homage to the duplex on First Avenue, then it needs to come down, and maybe the roof line is different. But I mean, I could see where this has a flat roof, but the main thing I would like to direct the applicant to consider is that what would you find in a little knuckle buried in in the depths of this Italian village, so it's, it might be a little home, and you could investigate how when you go east of Italian Village Park and east of Kerr, there's a couple alleys where there are actually homes back in the alleys uh, that you could use as kind of a sort of a situational inspiration. And I've already brought up that, but maybe it's not appropriate anymore, is the whole idea of a court, and that you accommodate fewer cars, just there's a garden court on Second Avenue, there's one on First Avenue. And then finally, there's a development of a two-story place kind of near Summit and Otter. And where, again, there's very little parking, but there's a two-story set of condos back there with a modern design that are kind of unexpected. But I think to look for these kind of moments that are strange, and what the history, the fabricated history was, why that building existed. Was it a garage? Was it a squeezed-in house? Was it an old part of the old site? Before anything else was developed. So I think you have a ways to go for scale, architecture, and the kind of parking situation that should be accommodated on this site.
Brooke?
I have nothing to add. I agree with the majority of the comments already made.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what the heck this street should, I mean, if I had thought when I started on the commission, however many million years ago, we would be entertaining constant applications on Prescott Alley, I would never have believed it. But it is hot property for some reason. That being said, one of the hard places to conceptualize what works. What I don't think works here is that parking up in front of it. I don't think the parking lot that's there right now is successful. I think it's kind of a mess. It's just like thrown in the back to get people to stop parking on the front lawn of the house that was there. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we actually have a house next door to it that we did allow to have parking come directly off the front into the front of the building. And I'm starting to think maybe that's the solution for this skinny little tiny alley. And, right next to you, we just approved variances for that one. And what I just was doing, both physically walking around, but again, right now on Google Maps, is I was looking down the alley that goes right up to the UDF, and there's a not atypical little carriage house, a pretty decent sized carriage house, really, nice historic, 1.5 story with a dormer. If we wanted to go more historic in character, I think just kind of making it more like what some of the other things we've seen, being more of a carriage house style, but potentially like a double version of that could work for me, where you're actually parking off the alley. And like Ben said, if you want to make it more modern or interesting, I'm okay with that too. I don't know. I not often that I suggest having parking pull in straight off the right of way, but I feel like this is maybe the location where that does make more sense. And then have yourself a little more of a yard on the other side of the building where you can do something that allows that to feel more like it's in the fabric of the community rather than it's jammed in the back with a lot of pavement in front. And the last thing I'll say about that is, unfortunately, if you're going to put the pavement in front, because you're having those head-in spots, that means you have to have a whole lot of extra pavement to get to those spots. So you're kind of like doubling up the amount of pavement to get 4 parking spaces, which just seems like we're going in the wrong direction where we already have too much pavement back in this area. So anyway, that's where I am. I don't know if those are the right answers, but that's where my head is at the moment. So with that, Michael, other things that you would like to know from us today on the conceptual?
No, I mean, that was I just wanted to get some of that feedback. That placement of the building was definitely one of our biggest concerns, from Commissioner Cook's comments as far as that, the house on the corner. We were thinking that it would be better to pull it off the alley. in order to keep that massing difference different or away from each other. We don't have a problem going with a different roof line, something that tries to scale it down even more. So we're just trying to get that this initial feedback now that we're at a duplex. Definitely, I feel like it's maybe heading in a better direction to where we could really start honing in a little bit better on these on the design and on the elevations.
Yeah, and I think you can maybe split the difference a little and pull it back a little bit, so you're not like smack up against it like a carriage house, but you still have an entry that way, and still give yourself a little yard in the back. I mean, I think you have some flexibility in my mind.
Yeah.
David, do you have something else to add?
Nope.
Okay, staff, do you need anything else on this one from me or from us on this?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, we are winding down, but would be remiss of us not to ceremoniously kick Todd off the board. Thank you very much, Todd. You have been so valuable. It's going to really be tough to replace you. I have no idea how we're going to do that, but you've been amazing. Others want to chime in?
I agree. It's you're the sort of steady hand and what is a field of emotional people. And so I've always welcomed your viewpoint and feel it's a loss to not have that kind of different personality on the commission.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, guys. It's been crazy. It's been almost 15 years doing it.
Really?
So that it has certainly been fun. I've learned so much from everybody, and certainly proud to be on the commission for that long and see the difference that this commission has made in the evolution of the Short North and the neighborhood is kind of incredible. So I will certainly miss it.
Well, you'll be missed. Thank you very much for your service. And then staff will have to figure out how to go about the mechanics of all the rest of the stuff we need to do. So you can help us with that.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd.
All
All
right.
right, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you
Take
all.
care.
Have a great